Welcome to Chinese Novel Audiobook. Chapter 61 Outrageous Results. The document clearly states, since that incident, Han Qun and Wang Chenghai were both taken away by the school discipline team for investigation. If you don't check, you won't know. If you check, you will be shocked. Han Qun and Wang Chenghai were colluding. The various violations of school rules and regulations that were committed were not just one or two at all. Embezzling student scholarships, modifying students' grades, unspoken rules for female college students, maliciously destroying students' talents. It can be said that all things related to violations of regulations and disciplines. There's nothing you can't think of, nothing they dare to do. And this series of things, under the cover and protection of a deputy director and a star mentor. It was actually not revealed for several years. If not for this incident, Han Qun and Wang Chenghai were brought into the school discipline team for a comprehensive investigation. Maybe these injustices will still be covered up in the dust. Such crimes were documented in the school disciplinary committee's report. The school discipline team's handling plan is also extremely strict. Humanitarian euthanasia has been planned for Han Qun and Wang Chenghai. So far in this report, everything is relatively normal and reasonable. But it happened to be on the next page of this closed case. Added a document issued by the Penalties Division. There is a sentence clearly written on it. In view of the fact that instructor Han Qun won the third-class merit award in 3 teaching competitions in the world competition, the case is closed and the merits and demerits of instructor Han Qun are balanced, and he will be pardoned. Official seal, signature, everything is complete. Below is the signature of the principal person in charge of the school. The punishment department serves as the last link in the judicial resolution of the entire Dragon Kingdom. Has the power to sentence all criminals. Therefore, the conclusion of the case by the penal division is usually the final disposition of the criminal. Generally speaking, the penalties department will not interfere too much with each department's own punishment. But this time the punishment department took action. Not only did he take action, he also produced such outrageous results. Han Qun has done so many unscrupulous things, it can be said that euthanasia is a bit advantageous to him. Among the results issued by the Penalties Division, Han Qun offset these mistakes because he had obtained third-class merit 3 times. Although there have been precedents in the Dragon Kingdom where the merits and demerits were equal to each other. But Han Qun's idea of balancing merits and demerits is really far-fetched. All we can say is that this kind of judgment may be legal, but it is unpopular. Yi Ran looked at this plan and narrowed his eyes slightly. Especially after seeing the photos of female college students who were violated and the current living conditions of those students who were destroyed. With a trace of inexplicable anger in my heart. As a mentor, Yi Ran. Although I only had a silver level before and had no ability to teach students anything. But the love and respect for students is obvious to all. Otherwise, Wang Dakan and Zhang Xiaoru would not have trusted him so much before. In Yi Ran's opinion, the things Han Qun did were too late. But the punishment department wants to protect this beast. For a moment, Yi Ran's hand holding the document tightened unconsciously, and the paper became a little wrinkled. You think it's unreasonable? Bai Shu's voice came again. Yi Ran looked at Bai Shu, put the documents on the table with both hands, and remained silent. As if in a silent struggle, Bai Shu took the document and smoothed the wrinkles pinched by Yi Ran. The recent sentences handed down by the Penalties Division are more and more outrageous, and I don't know how these sentences were handed down. Bai Shu put on his reading glasses and looked at the decision of the punishment department with disgust. Then, he threw it aside. Afterwards, Bai Shu stood up and said to Yi Ran, I'm going to sign this, what do you think? Hearing Bai Shu's words, Yi Ran remained calm. After a long time, he stared into Bai Shu's eyes. He opened his mouth and said to Bai Shu, what do I need to do? After hearing what Yi Ran said, Bai Shu, who had always taken the initiative, was suddenly stunned. What are you saying? Yi Ran remained calm and composed. With your character and strength, principle, according to common sense, it is impossible for you to sign an unreasonable document, and they do not have the qualifications to force you to sign it. Besides, you don't need to ask my opinion on whether to sign these documents or not. You don't even need to call me here. But you not only have to sign it, but you also have to bring me to you and ask my opinion before signing it. Yi Ran raised his head, looked at Bai Shu, and said seriously. When things go wrong, there must be a monster. You must have other considerations when you choose to sign this document. And the reason why you asked for my opinion before signing is that I am obviously a factor in your consideration, and it is an unavoidable factor. Since you have an idea, principal. As I said before, as the instructor of the Magic City Gaowu Academy, all I have to do is obey. Bai Shu was stunned when he heard Yi Ran's words. He didn't expect Yi Ran to be able to peel off the cocoon in such a short time. So many stakes have been analyzed. Aren't you afraid that I'm trying to trick you? Yi Ran looked at Bai Shu without giving in at all. For others, it is possible, but for a nation-killing transcendent, it is not necessary. If you really want me to die, the first time you use it on me is not to move space, but to cut space. After hearing what Yi Ran said, Bai Shu was stunned for a long time. Then he burst out laughing. He clapped happily. You are to be feared in the future, and you are to be feared in the future. Bai Shu applauded and looked at Yi Ran with a smile. It seems that your father really lied to me. Such an outstanding person was actually said by your father to be inferior to a ball of paper in the trash. The more Bai Shu looks at Yi Ran, the more curious he becomes. I originally thought that Yi Ran was just awakening because of his talent. And the spiritual genius who created the miracle of gold versus platinum in one fell swoop. But who would have thought? Yi Ran is not only extremely talented in cultivation. In terms of insight, character, and even human sophistication, he is the ultimate monster. Facing himself, a nation-killing extraordinary person. Not only am I not nervous. How could he analyze such a thing so thoroughly? For a time, Bai Shu responded to his previous decision to fight against 16 extraordinary beings for Yi Ran. It feels very right. Such a monster. If someone really robbed him, his beard would turn black. Bai Shu looked at Yi Ran. He sat back across the table again. There is no longer any scrutiny in his eyes. Instead, he looked at Yi Ran seriously. At this moment, Yi Ran truly gained the respect of this extraordinary person who killed the nation. Bai Shu picked up the file and looked at Yi Ran appreciatively. My guess is pretty close, but there's one thing that's not quite right. I choose you not because I want to choose you, but because this matter is about your life. Subsequently, Bai Shu picked up the documents from the punishment department. Handed to Yi Ran again. Take a careful look at this document and see who signed it in the penalties department. Yi Ran took the document and his eyes narrowed slightly. Zhu Dachang. Such a familiar name. Bai Shu continued to add. Deputy Director of the Penalties Department, member of the leadership team of the Penalties Department, he also has another identity. Bai Shu squinted his eyes and said. Kyoto, Zhu family, the only son of Luaniao Taoist Zhu Qingguan. Hearing this, Yi Ran's heart trembled slightly. Chapter 62 The Zhu Family's Plan. Kyoto, Zhu family. Yi Ran murmured to himself, narrowing his eyes slightly. It seems that he recalled some bad things. Speaking of which, I have offended a lot of people recently because of you. Bai Shu stroked his beard. 16 extraordinary people came to our school the day before yesterday. Guess what they came for? After hearing this, Yi Ran had a rough guess in his mind. The corners of his mouth couldn't help but twitch slightly. Looking at Yi Ran's expression, Bai Shu blew his beard angrily. 16 extraordinary and 16 top forces are all here for you. You are really grand. Speaking of which, you are really a hot commodity. If I hadn't still had some strength, I might have been snatched away by other forces. Hearing this, Yi Ran cupped his hands. Thank you, principal, for your love. Bai Shu said half-jokingly. Why? Don't you blame me for restricting your outlet. Yi Ran continued. Being able to teach here is my biggest wish at this moment. Yi Ran's words were not flattering, they came from the heart. Before he took the final exam and got first place, he really didn't want to go anywhere. Bai Shu looked at Yi Ran with a sincere face and was stunned. As an extraordinary person who kills the country, he can naturally feel that Yi Ran is telling the truth. Bai Shu was a little surprised, he didn't expect Yi Ran to answer like this. Naturally, he didn't know that Yi Ran had a system mission. In Bai Shu's eyes, the kid in front of me would rather give up these olive branches and stay in school as a teacher. This persistence, this quality, in today's impetuous society, seems extremely precious. For a moment, Bai Shu was in a daze. At this time, Yi Ran actually gave him a feeling that he was not alone in his path. Perhaps because of his admiration for Yi Ran, Bai Shu no longer hid it, and directly revealed everything. To tell you the truth, this time, the 16 extraordinary people gathered together. It is true that most of them want to steal your genius, but there is one family who probably wants you to die. Yi Ran heard Bai Shu's words. He looked at the penalties department's documents on the table again. Suddenly he said, Kyoto, Zhu family. The response is not slow. Bai Shu nodded. You also know the grievances between your Yi family and Zhu family, these old men won't go into details. Since we know that this genius is you, it is impossible for the Zhu family to do nothing and let you grow up. Bai Shu paused for a moment, leaning on the back of his chair, recalling something. When I refused all forces to approach you, Luaniao Taoist Master Zhu Qingguan specifically asked me what to do if your contract expires. I told her that when the contract expires, everyone will depend on their abilities. Bai Shu looked at Yi Ran. At that time, I felt something was wrong, but I couldn't figure out what was wrong. It wasn't until I saw this document that I found out the clues. Bai Shu pointed at the file. During the contract period, if the Zhu family takes action, in addition to the pressure from the Yi family, they will also have to bear the additional pressure from Mowu. They feel it is not worth it. But if there is no contract, according to the rules, if the Zhu family takes action again, the Magic Martial Arts Academy has no reason to stand up for you. So, they have planned to strip me of my identity as the instructor of the Demonic Martial Arts Academy from the beginning. Yi Ran took over the conversation and suddenly realized. Theoretically, I can continue to sign the contract, but due to the freshman reform, there is an elimination mechanism in the assessment. Bai Shu nodded. Yes, they plan to make a fuss about the final assessment. It seems that the Zhu family has been paying attention to you from the beginning. They actually know that the class you teach has poor grades and is about to be eliminated in the final assessment. So in order to deal with you, the Zhu family atones for an unforgivable bastard and wants to use his help to force the school to eliminate you. At that time, even if the Zhu family kills you, I have no reason to stand up for you. As for your Yi family, the Zhu family probably no longer cares about taking another life of the Yi family. Bai Shu said, unable to help but marvel. As expected of the Zhu family, the layout is so messy that it's really a headache. Bai Shu looked at Yi Ran. The Zhu family wants to kill you, so they have naturally made complete preparations. By then, the Yi family will also be restrained by the Zhu family and will have no time to care about you. Bai Shu has already explained it very thoroughly. Since the Zhu family has made so many moves, they must have taken the Yi family into consideration. When the time comes for the Zhu family to surround and kill Yi Ran, they will definitely find a way to contain the Yi family. Until then, no matter how talented Yi Ran is, you still haven't grown up after all. Faced with a top-notch family's deliberate and all-out killing, life is in danger. Yi Ran listened to Bai Shu's words and nodded without any reaction. It feels like knowing that the old man next door beat the old ant in a chess game last night, and there is no reaction. Looking at Yi Ran's calm expression, Bai Shu became interested. Aren't you afraid? In my memory, as long as the killing arranged by the Zhu family has never failed. Yi Ran said calmly. Afraid? Bai Shu looked at Yi Ran and couldn't help blowing his beard. Afraid you look like this? Yi Ran continued. Whether I am afraid or not, the Zhu family will attack me, so fear is meaningless, and besides. Yi Ran looked at Bai Shu and said confidently. Before the Zhu family wants to take action, you will definitely stand up for me. Bai Shu listened to Yi Ran's words and laughed. Are you so confident that I will stand up for you? Do you know that since the Zhu family began to arrange for you, many families have stopped inquiring about you? The hostility between a talented genius and a behemoth is something that all forces will seek to gain and avoid. Yi Ran shook his head. I am not confident that you will stand up for my talent, I am confident that you will stand up for a mentor of the Magic City High Martial Arts Academy. Bai Shu narrowed his eyes when he heard this. Do you think they can't eliminate you? Quote. Yi Ran looked at Bai Shu and said seriously. In this assessment, my class must be the first, this is a fact that no one can change. Bai Shu smiled when he heard Yi Ran's words. Good boy, you are ambitious. Then, Bai Shu knocked on the table and looked at Yi Ran and said. It is good to be ambitious, but don't underestimate the strength of any top family, especially the Zhu family. In order to achieve the goal, he will do anything. Quote. You can believe that your students are capable, but how do you know that your students can enter the examination room safely? Quote. After all, Bai Shu is a Tuguo level extraordinary, and he has experienced much more than Yi Ran. This sentence directly awakened Yi Ran. He is confident that his students can be invincible in the examination room. But, what if the Zhu family chooses to destroy his students before the exam? Yi Ran frowned slightly. Bai Shu looked at the frowning Yi Ran and asked calmly. Why? Are you starting to worry about being eliminated? Yi Ran shook his head. No. Then why are you frowning? I'm worried about my students. After hearing this, Bai Shu was slightly stunned, and his eyes could not hide his admiration. Even at this point, he still took students into consideration first. Bai Shu looked at Yi Ran, and the more he looked at him, the more he liked him. It seems that he did not make a mistake in choosing him. Chapter 63. Since the criminal procedure can't solve it, I don't mind doing it myself. Yi Ran raised his hands to Bai Shu. The principal can tell me in advance, I am very grateful. Yi Ran could see clearly. And in this matter, the Zhu family chose to do this because they obviously did not want to offend Bai Shu too much. Therefore, he used means to terminate Yi Ran's contract and let Bai Shu stand by and watch as a matter of course. In short, the Zhu family has already handed Bai Shu the steps. After the contract was terminated, Bai Shu didn't have any moral problem even if he didn't help. It can be said that it gave Bai Shu enough face. I believe that Bai Shu can naturally understand the Zhu family's behavior. Logically speaking, Bai Shu and Yi Ran are neither relatives nor friends. The best thing to do now is to remain neutral and not help each other. This is the best choice for him and the school. But Bai Shu could inform Yi Ran in advance. It is indeed considered as the most benevolent and righteous thing. Seeing that Yi Ran seemed to have made up his mind, Bai Shu asked, What are your plans? Yi Ran looked at Bai Shu and said frankly, I'm going to go out and find some help. Do you think the helper you are looking for can fight against the Zhu family? Bai Shu asked. Listening to Bai Shu's question, Yi Ran had a wry smile on his face. You can't sit still and wait for death, right? Indeed, as Bai Shu said. Who can I turn to? My own family, the Yi family. Being pitted against two aristocratic families, the Yi family itself was a bit stretched. Where could they find manpower? Free tavern. He has no legal status in the Dragon Kingdom. Once a conflict arises, it may be better not to come. Yi Ran's mind sank slightly. With his current connections and strength, facing such a top family, it's really too small. Bai Shu looked at Yi Ran and tapped on the table. After a while, Bai Shu said to Yi Ran, How about the Magic Martial Arts Academy be your backing? After hearing Bai Shu's words, Yi Ran's pupils shrank slightly. He looked at Bai Shu in disbelief. Yi Ran really didn't expect Bai Shu to make such a choice. As a top-notch family, the Zhu family, the energy possessed in the Dragon Kingdom is terrifying. Under the Zhu family's dedicated management over the years, the children of the clan have already occupied important positions in various departments of the Dragon Kingdom. Its power is so huge. He has vaguely secured the throne of the first three families in the Dragon Kingdom. Otherwise, the Yi family would not have been so low-key these years. Even the family head's youngest son was cut off from his cultivation path, but he didn't take any violent revenge. But now, Bai Shu not only informed Yi Ran in advance, and he said something like this. Bai Shu is an extraordinary person who kills the nation, although he is not afraid of it personally. But what about the Magic Martial Arts Academy? The college will inevitably be attacked and retaliated by the Zhu family. Such behavior, for the leader of a force, this is too irrational. Especially with Bai Shu's calm and steady temperament, who advocates Daju as the most important thing in everything. To be able to say something like this is simply unbelievable. Principal, Yi Ran was stunned for a long time, a little speechless. Yi Ran looked at Bai Shu without saying anything. He naturally knew that Bai Shu did this with the intention of recruiting him. But for myself, an unknown who has not yet achieved anything extraordinary, just choose to fight against a top family, the price is really too high. Looking at the principal's deep eyes, Yi Ran couldn't guess Bai Shu's thoughts for a while. Why, do you think what I do is not in line with your interests? Do you think I have other agendas? Bai Shu's words revealed Yi Ran's thoughts. Yi Ran didn't speak, which was regarded as acquiescence. Bai Shu looked at Yi Ran, shook his head, lowered his head and wrote something. Today's people, opening their mouths is a benefit, shutting up is a reason, then let me ask you. Bai Shu looked at Yi Ran. As a principal, do you need a reason to protect an excellent teacher? Yi Ran raised his head and was stunned for a long time, unable to answer. Do you need? It doesn't seem like it's really needed. After Bai Shu finished writing, he took the paper in his hand and admired it with satisfaction through the sunlight. This is a transfer order. Starting from today, I will assign a platinum-level expert to protect your class as an assistant teacher. With him here, at least the lives of the students in your class will be safe. After Bai Shu finished speaking, he patted it lightly with one hand. This transfer order simply disappeared out of thin air. Thanks. Yi Ran was silent for a moment, then said two words seriously. The words were short but the sound was long. Bai Shu waved his hand. He said to Yi Ran, "Don't thank me. I'm not doing this all for you. The reason why I asked you to come is that I really need you to do something. Be obedient and listen to the sound." When Yi Ran heard what Bai Shu said, he remembered that Bai Shu had planned to sign before. Suddenly he opened his mouth and asked, "Principal, do you want the Zhu family to continue to push this matter forward?" Bai Shu nodded. "I have this plan." "Why?" Yi Ran was a little confused. Bai Shu glanced at Yi Ran, then pondered. "If you want to let it perish, let it swell first. If you are not in my position, naturally you cannot see something. Some small groups have done this to Han Kun more than once. These people have hurt the foundation of this country. It's time to prune the branches." Bai Shu said it with the murderous aura of heads rolling in and power falling. Hearing Bai Shu's words, Yi Ran's heart trembled. Although Bai Shu is a college principal on the surface, but everyone knows his resume. During the chaos of war, he threw his pen into the army and joined the army. The defenders of the country who survived the 13 defense battles of the Dragon Kingdom, large and small. One of the 3 pillars of Shanghai, a staunch patriot. He is also the most arrogant and considerate of the overall situation among all the nation-slaying extraordinary beings in the Dragon Kingdom. And what could make this normally most harmonious nation-killing transcendent so murderous? It must have touched Bai Shu's reverse scale. National interest. The principal wants to use this incident to start a war with certain interest groups. Yi Ran looked at Bai Shu, and his heart surged. "So, principal, you want me to fire the first shot?" Bai Shu looked at Yi Ran and nodded. "Try to pressure Han Kun and force them to use these buggy methods. Principal, our class is well known as a salty fish class. Without your support in terms of strength, I'm afraid we wouldn't be able to do the job." Bai Shu listened to Yi Ran's question. He glared at Yi Ran. "You kid, you really think I'm blind? I still signed Huang Dongdong's procedures. Also, you took Wang Dakan and secretly ate the flesh and blood of 3,000 ink dragons and I still haven't settled the account with you." Hearing this, Yi Ran smiled sarcastically and said, "The principal knew all about their relationship. Principal, after all, our class is at the forefront of the storm. We took such a big risk and fired the first shot. If there is no credit, it is at least a bit of hard work." Bai Shu looked at Yi Ran and said helplessly, "Smelly boy, tell me, what do you want?" Yi Ran thought for a moment and said, "I need the blood essence of an S-class ferocious beast, a fire crystal core of extraordinary quality, and some extraordinary attributes." "Stop it." Seeing Yi Ran's little mouth babbling with no intention of stopping, Bai Shu stopped immediately and looked at Yi Ran angrily. "There are so many things that are either of extraordinary quality or S-level. Do you think I've got the goods?" Bai Shu blew his beard habitually and stretched out a finger. "You only get one chance, or don't want one at all." Yi Ran listened to Bai Shu's words and said with some regret, "That's it, then the extraordinary quality fire crystal core will be fine, but I hope to get it before the game. Here you go. Shut your mouth." After saying that, Bai Shu snapped his fingers, and a gem appeared directly in Yi Ran's hand. "Okay, principal." After saying that, Yi Ran put the gem directly into his pocket, as if he was afraid that Bai Shu would regret it. Seeing Yi Ran's readily agreeing and quickly putting it in his pocket, Bai Shu was stunned. Talking about time, Bai Shu even suspected that this kid just wanted this one after talking so much. Thinking of this, Bai Shu couldn't help but twitch his mouth. Later, Yi Ran said to Bai Shu, "Principal, I have one more request." "Young man, don't be greedy." Bai Shu frowned. Yi Ran looked at Bai Shu and shook his head. "Principal, that's not what I want to say." Bai Shu raised his head and looked at Yi Ran with some confusion. "If you have any requirements, tell me." Yi Ran said seriously, "During the assessment process, if I have the opportunity to fight Han Kun alone, by then, I hope the principal can stop all those who interfere." Bai Shu looked at Yi Ran. "What do you want to do?" Yi Ran grinned, with murderous intent in his eyes. "Since the criminal process can't deal with this beast, I don't mind doing it myself." Chapter 64 When the Stars of Humanity Shine. Hearing this, Bai Shu looked at Yi Ran and said nothing for a long time. After a moment, Bai Shu nodded slightly. You want me to help you kill someone on the spot? Bai Shu squinted his eyes. Yi Ran's request made it difficult for him to agree. Maintaining the authority of public power and maintaining procedural justice are the keys to maintaining the basic stability of a country. Even if Han Kun really deserves to die. But in Bai Shu's eyes, the country must be judged. This is also what Bai Shu has always insisted on. Even if there are problems in the penalties department now, lynching cannot be used to disrupt the order. Bai Shu stared at Yi Ran with deep eyes. After a long time, Bai Shu said, Boy, I hope you remember that the Dragon Kingdom belongs to justice and the people after all. Even if there are villains in the punishment department, I hope you can trust the country and that we old guys are still here. Yi Ran looked at Bai Shu and said softly, I believed it before, but now, who let Han Kun out? Yi Ran stood there as if he were a pine tree. Facing a nation-killing transcendent, he didn't give in even a single step. Looking at Yi Ran's stubborn attitude, Bai Shu opened his mouth and wanted to explain. But no reason was given for a long time. After all, the public power of the penal division has been used in this way. Such facts are before us. What reason did he have to refute Yi Ran? For a moment, Bai Shu felt a trace of unknown anger in his heart. This group of bastards, they have nothing to eat but form cliques for personal gain. Every unfair judgment they make, every unpopular decision they make. They are all draining the trust of Dragon Kingdom geniuses like Yi Ran in Dragon Kingdom. This is simply digging your own grave. Yi Ran's performance intensified Bai Shu's inner determination to clean up these silverfish. Looking at Yi Ran, Bai Shu sighed helplessly. Children, there are some chronic diseases and diseases in any large country. Don't lose faith in the light just because you face the darkness. Yi Ran looked at Bai Shu and spoke slowly. Where are those girls? Where are those students who were abandoned? Can they still see the light? Can their pain and their lives be easily explained with just a sentence of chronic illness and chronic illness? Yi Ran's question was calm and powerful. His eyes were clear and firm. Just looking straight at this nation-killing extraordinary person. At this moment, Yi Ran's eyes. In Bai Shu's eyes, it is like the scorching sun. Burning. No, it's even more heartbreaking. After a long time, Bai Shu let out a long sigh. Sorry, I cannot support lynching, but I will stop the Zhu family's forces from interfering with the examination room. As for other people's attempts to stop it, I will not stop it. Yi Ran looked at Bai Shu, nodded, and said softly. That's enough, thanks. For me and for them. Afterwards, Yi Ran walked out of the principal's office without looking back. Bai Shu looked at Yi Ran's leaving figure. My heart is full of mixed feelings. Faced with the threat from the aristocratic family, Yi Ran didn't say anything. Faced with his plan, Yi Ran didn't say anything. It seems that from beginning to end. In addition to cheating and asking for a gem, Yi Ran also. It seems that I only made this request. It turns out that such a request was not made for myself. Full of passion, speak out for injustice, take action against injustice. At this time, Yi Ran is more pure than he was back then. Bai Shu took a deep breath, his eyes were firm, and he seemed to have made a big decision. Yi Ran. Bai Shu opened his mouth and stopped Yi Ran, who was about to leave. Yi Ran turned his head. Principal, what else can I do? Bai Shu looked at Yi Ran and moved his fingers slightly. Then an extremely exquisite pagoda floated in front of Yi Ran. After this incident is over, come to me with this small tower. Yi Ran looked at the small tower carefully for a while. This Lingtong pagoda has a total of 18 floors. The carvings are extremely delicate and beautiful. Although it's only about the height of your index finger. But the doors and windows on each floor can even be closed and opened. It's as if it's not a carved tower at all, but a real tower reduced to this size. The whole tower is like a living thing. The mysterious and old atmosphere periodically escapes. At first glance, it seems to be nothing ordinary. Although I don't know exactly what Bai Shu means. However, Yi Ran still put away the pagoda and said to Bai Shu. Okay, principal. After speaking, Yi Ran turned around and left the principal's office. After Yi Ran leaves, Bai Shu sat on the chair and pondered for a long time. After a while, Bai Shu said angrily to Void. Now that you're here, how long do you plan to hide? It seems that he heard Bai Shu's response. In an instant, the position in the void that Bai Shu was staring at. As if being split open by a sword, a neat crack appeared. Lan Moyan appeared naturally from it. Lan Moyan looked at Bai Shu. Wangta gave it to him. Bai Shu glanced at Lan Moyan. I have the Wangta here. It seems you don't need to decide who I give it to. Lan Moyan shook her head. Of course not. After a while, Lan Moyan, who had always been taciturn, couldn't help but say. The original rule was that members of Huang must be extraordinary people. You are violating the rules. Bai Shu rolled his eyes at Lan Moyan. Have you forgotten that as a temporary wilderness lord, you are qualified to select people with the potential to become extraordinary beings as reserves? Lan Moyan looked at Bai Shu and pointed to the place where Yi Ran left. In the late golden stage, can you have such a long-term vision? In the later stage of diamond, you said that if you can come out, you will definitely become a transcendent. Then Lan Moyan has nothing to say. But Yi Ran is only in the late golden stage, how can you see extraordinary things in vain? Bai Shu pondered for a moment, shook his head, smiled and said to Lan Moyan. You know, strength has never been the first criterion for me to select people. Yi Ran, I just like this guy. I have chosen him. The worst is that if you report me now, you guys will kill me. This old man has changed his acting role. Lan Moyan looked at Bai Shu, then at the place where Yi Ran left. He opened his mouth and asked, aren't you afraid that the 8th floor master will cause trouble for you? Bai Shu squinted his eyes as he listened to Lan Moyan's words. When we first established Huang, everyone made an oath with their souls. I didn't violate the contract, so why does it matter if he comes to me? Bai Shu turned his head and looked at Lan Moyan. What? Do you have any more questions? Lan Moyan listened to Bai Shu's question, and a smile appeared on her handsome face. As stunning as a snow lotus blooming, it's gone. Then, Lan Moyan stretched out her hand, student ID card and documents. Bai Shu looked at Lan Moyan angrily. Why? Wangta is suddenly unimportant again. Lan Moyan looked at Bai Shu. It's important. Then why are you suddenly not worried anymore? Lan Moyan looked at Bai Shu with a puzzled expression. He's mine soon, why should I struggle? Listening to Lan Moyan's words, Bai Shu passed the student card to Lan Moyan's hand angrily. Get out, get out, get out, get out of here, don't let me see you. After Lan Moyan got the certificate, she ignored the old man who kept complaining. He waved his hand directly and split the space. Disappeared from Bai Shu's office. When Lan Moyan leaves, Bai Shu fell into deep thought again. For me, and for them. You little brat, please click on me. Bai Shu murmured to himself, repeating Yi Ran's words. Although Yi Ran's words were not directed towards him. But how could Bai Shu, who had been around for almost 100 years, fail to hear Yi Ran's voiceover? What to do for them? What frivolous explanation? It's just that he doesn't recognize his own actions. What Bai Shu wants to protect is the stability and harmony of the entire country. What Yi Ran wants to redeem is anyone who is visible and tangible in the world. Although neither is wrong, but there will eventually be cognitive conflicts. This kid hasn't grown up yet. Bai Shu thought about Yi Ran's words, leaned on the seat and began to recall. In a trance, Bai Shu also thought of himself back then. Once upon a time, I was just like Yi Ran today. Happy grudges. Regardless of the consequences, a passionate gesture of anger and peace. That time and that moment was exactly like this moment. But now, for the sake of the overall situation, for balance, for harmony, for the entire Dragon Kingdom, it seems that I haven't considered individual feelings for a long time. Ha ha. Bai Shu shook his head as if mocking himself. You are indeed old, your blood is so cold. Bai Shu laughed at himself. While looking at the office door, he muttered to himself. Just a classmate, a young man in his prime. Bai Shu touched a book on his desk. He has many thoughts. There is hope and relief in his eyes. This book is a miscellaneous book. The old ones are a little yellowed, and each soft page seems to be broken if you turn it again. And the name of this book? Called, When Humanity's Stars Shine. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 65. The product is not what it said, the teaching assistant level is a bit too high. Yi Ran left the principal's office. Without saying a word. His steps were a little heavy. Part of it was indignation at what Han Kun and Wang Chenghai had done before. Part of it was because the punishment was outrageous. Another part is because of Principal Bai Shu's attitude. The overall situation is important. The overall situation is important. Be careful and maintain everything. In the end, what did you get in exchange? In exchange for these silverfish that harm students. In exchange for the punishment of a traitor. Yi Ran, who has been a man for 2 generations, naturally understands what Bai Shu thinks. However, he did not agree. Why should the situation of world harmony be propped up by the grievances of good people? Those girls who were violated, those students who were crippled, their blossoming age and their just beginning life. Who will pay for them? Thinking of this, Yi Ran kicked away the paper balls on the roadside angrily. Walked towards his class. Han Kun, Zhu Jia. Yi Ran walked into the classroom while thinking. As a result, no student in the classroom paid attention to his arrival. At this time, the classroom was full of people. All the students gathered around a table and looked at something. Stronger, harder, Wang Dakan. Hurry up and work harder. Didn't you eat today? Wang Dakan. Wang Dakan, you are the last glory of the boys in our class. If you lose, our whole class will be really shameless. Dakan works hard. Dakan. The students were chattering. Everyone cheered Wang Dakan excitedly. He didn't notice at all that Yi Ran had quietly squeezed in among the crowd at this moment. After squeezing in, Yi Ran naturally saw what happened to this table. At this moment, Wang Dakan was sitting on one side of the table, and opposite him was sitting another giant man. However, Wang Dakan's physique is already tall and strong enough. But he never expected that the tall man on the other side was 3 heads taller than Wang Dakan. Those strong and swollen muscles are definitely capable of covering Wang Dakan completely. Wang Dakan and this burly man were leaning against the table with their elbows, engaging in the most primitive 1v1 confrontation between men. Arm wrestling. At this time, Wang Dakan's face was already red, his teeth were clenched tightly, and his whole body was trembling, as if he had put all his strength on his right hand. However, looking at the burly man opposite, the old god is still looking at Wang Dakan. I turned a deaf ear to the cheers from the students around me. You can't even see this sturdy man exerting any effort at all. Not only was this big man very relaxed, he also had time to smile and said to Wang Dakan. Young man, you have good strength. It is really rare to have such strength at your age. Are you interested in joining the military? Wang Dakan looked at the big man panting. Especially when I saw this big man talking and laughing with me without any effort at all, my eyes turned red. Wang Dakan grinned at the big man and said, Don't talk too much, uncle. As he spoke, Wang Dakan's eyes began to turn blood red, and his whole aura began to change slightly. You could even vaguely feel the blood mist seeping out of Wang Dakan's pores. Huh, the tall man saw the changes in Wang Dakan's body and momentum, and said. His eyes were slightly bright, as if he had seen an incredible treasure. As a result, before Wang Dakan was completely alienated into Taotie. Suddenly a hand was placed on the shoulder. Wang Dakan turned his head and looked in the direction of the owner of the hand. When he saw it was Yi Ran, he was frightened. Finally, he put away his hand in an instant, stood up respectfully, and stammered. Teacher Yi. Hello, Teacher Yi. The students who were originally gathered around this arm wrestling match. After seeing Yi Ran, everyone sat down in their seats as if running away. All of them lowered their heads, not daring to look at Yi Ran at all. At this moment, only Wang Dakan, Yi Ran and the burly man in front of him were left around the table. The burly man frowned slightly after seeing this scene. It seems a little regretful that I didn't see Wang Dakan's performance after alienation. However, he also had a hint of surprise in addition to regret. This class, as soon as the teacher comes, all the students quickly sat in their seats. The discipline is so strict. It doesn't look like the rumored Shanyu class at all. Sir, which class are you a teacher in? Just when the burly man was still confused, Yi Ran's voice came over. Hearing Yi Ran's inquiry, the sturdy man stood up gracefully. He touched his pocket, took out a certificate, and said to Yi Ran. You must be the teacher of this class, Teacher Yi. I am the new assistant teacher of our class. My name is Li Wancheng. Please give me your advice. Yi Ran took the certificate, looked at the photos on the certificate, then looked at Li Wancheng himself, and compared them carefully. He murmured to himself, Are you the teaching assistant the principal is talking about? Li Wancheng said with a carefree smile. You're talking about a teaching assistant. The previous assistant seems to have something to do with his family and can't come. I just happened to be there. Then Li Wancheng quietly put his head into Yi Ran's ear and said, As a teaching assistant, I only got it because of my connections. Yi Ran couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth when he listened to Li Wancheng's outrageous speech. The principal said. They need to assign a platinum-level teaching assistant to their class to prevent the Zhu family's insidious methods. But who can imagine? The assistant teacher who volunteered in front of me. Is TM a transcendent? Yi Ran, who has a system. When everyone uses their abilities, they can naturally see their panel attributes. And the moment Li Wancheng exerted his strength in the arm wrestling, Yi Ran has clearly seen Li Wancheng's data. Especially when he saw the level column, Yi Ran choked up. Is the assistant teacher who just takes over the class an extraordinary person? Is the Magic City Gaowu Academy already so rich? With this kind of power, the Zhu family is nothing. No, all the forces in the world are nothing. Principal, you said the class is well protected. But this is too thorough. Yi Ran was a little suspicious for a moment. I just bought a fire crystal core of extraordinary quality, will I lose money? I don't know whether the principal is crazy or I am crazy. He took a deep breath. Calmed down a bit, Yi Ran looked at Li Wancheng with a complicated expression at this time. Of course he knew that the Magic Martial Arts Academy would never be able to appoint extraordinary people as assistant teachers. So this extraordinary person must have other reasons for coming here. But a transcendent person sits in his own class as a teaching assistant. How can I go to class? Thinking that every word and every line of his words was under the surveillance of this transcendent being. Yi Ran felt like he was sitting on pins and needles. No, the product is not the right version, the grade is too high. I have to ask the principal to return it. However, there must be a reason for return. I want to return a teaching assistant. Naturally, we need to find out where this extraordinary person is unqualified as a teaching assistant. Yi Ran followed Li Wancheng's words and asked. So when you come to our class as a teaching assistant, the first thing you do is make a scene in class. After Li Wancheng heard this, he spread his fingers helplessly. Finally, he looked around the students. He said with an indifferent expression, Teacher Yi, it really wasn't me who started this. Why don't you ask the students in our class? To digress, I saw comments recently. A large number of people are talking about Yi Ran's family problems. How should I put it? The plot of the Yi family will soon come in, so everyone, please be patient. Moreover, a person has actually appeared in the Yi family, although it is quite special. I don't know if you have noticed it. I believe that everyone who reads this is still interested in this book. Usually, you may not have time to read the comments, and you can't get feedback just by writing alone. Save it, save it, save it. If you have any confusion, we can discuss it together. Thank you all. If you really like this book, please rate it more and send some small gifts. Thank you. Chapter 66. A beautiful boy came to the class. As soon as these words came out, the students all spoke, one after another. Teacher Yi, it's none of this assistant teacher's business, it's us who insist on competing with him. Let this assistant teacher see how awesome our class is. Teacher Yi, just leave him alone, he is just weak, we can definitely beat him. Teacher Yi, if you hadn't come just now, Wang Dakan would have definitely won. If Teacher Yi asks them to continue competing, we will definitely win. Yi Ran listened to the speeches of these students and looked at the extraordinary person. The corners of my mouth couldn't help but twitch. Although I don't know why these monkey cubs are so proactive. But the freshman wants to use the power of the whole class to defeat the extraordinary one. You really dare to think. Is it the hedgehog who gives you courage? Just when Yi Ran was thinking, Li Wancheng's voice came again. Teacher Yi, look, I didn't take the initiative, right? Why don't you let the classmate named Wang Dakan continue to fight with me? Li Wancheng looked at Wang Dakan, eager to try. Wang Dakan, didn't you say you can definitely beat me? Wang Dakan felt Li Wancheng's provocation, and he became more competitive. He stood up directly and rolled up his sleeves, showing those arms with exploding muscles. It didn't feel any better just now. Let me show you my true strength. With that said, Wang Dakan walked towards Li Wancheng. Prepare to find Li Wancheng for another contest. All the students slapped the table excitedly and made a whining sound. It adds to the atmosphere for this 1v1 men's battle. Dakan, sit down for me. Oh, good teacher. Yi Ran scolded. Wang Dakan, who was still eager to try. He quickly responded to Yi Ran's words. Then he stepped back extremely obediently and sat in his seat obediently. Keep your back straight. It looks like a primary school student who just went to school and was taught sitting posture. Other students. No more hesitation. One by one they lowered their heads and began to study hard. There was silence once again. Li Wancheng looked at this scene and sighed angrily. Inwardly, I marveled secretly. It seems that the rumors outside are not accurate at all. What kind of salted fish class, what kind of lying teacher? They can all enforce orders and prohibitions. Is there anyone who can lie down like this? For a time, Li Wancheng's impression of Yi Ran deepened a lot again. Assistant Li, I can call you that. Yi Ran asked politely. Li Wancheng nodded. Teacher Yi, I am very familiar with the job of teaching assistant. If you need anything, just ask me. Listening to Li Wancheng's words, Yi Ranrao was mentally prepared. But he couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. A transcendent person said to a gold-level person like, I have something to give you. Yi Ran felt weird no matter how he heard it. If you don't have anything else to do, please sit in the last row of the classroom every day. This will also make it easier to watch all the learning conditions of our students and manage them better. What Yi Ran said was exactly like what he said to a real assistant teacher. He just wanted to see how long this extraordinary person could keep pretending. If this extraordinary person pretends to be impatient, he will have a reason to go to the principal to return the goods. As a result, Yi Ran's plan didn't work at all. After Li Wancheng heard Yi Ran's arrangement, he stood up straight and said to Yi Ran very respectfully. No problem, Teacher Yi. After saying that, Li Wancheng walked directly to the last row. Sitting by the wall. The back is straight. Pay careful attention to all the situations in the class. That expression, that posture. He is even more meticulous than a real assistant teacher. Yi Ran, who was still expecting Li Wancheng to be unable to bear it. There is nothing else I can say at this moment. An extraordinary person can do this, he really can't find any other reason to say it's inappropriate. Yi Ran looked at Li Wancheng with a complicated expression. Where is your majesty as a transcendent being? Do you really not feel a little bit uncomfortable being commanded like this by a golden mentor? At this moment when Yi Ran was complaining in his heart. Seeing Yi Ran paying attention to Li Wancheng, he also took out his little notebook with a proud look on his face and shook it at Yi Ran. With Yi Ran's eyes, naturally, I can clearly see what is written in the small notebook. In row 1, column 2, if you get distracted and take a nap, 1 point will be deducted. In row 4, column 5, if you steal snacks, 1 point will be deducted. Row 8, column 7, peeking at the comics, 1 point deducted. ... At this moment, Yi Ran was completely confused. He just verbally arranged for Li Wancheng to sit in the last row on the grounds of paying attention to the students. Who would have thought that Li Wancheng was actually sitting in the last row? Not only did I sit in the last row, he also took the initiative to pay attention to the students' learning situation. Even a disciplinary behavior score sheet. Do you want to be so professional? Tired? Destroy it. For a time, Yi Ran looked at Li Wancheng, who was active, conscientious, and dedicated to being a teaching assistant. He sighed helplessly. When he meets an extraordinary person who has such no bottom line, what else can he say? What other reasons do you have to go to the principal to return the goods? Accept your defeat. Principal, you are so kind. Subsequently, Yi Ran no longer thought about how to return Li Wancheng's goods. Instead, he stood on the podium openly. Get ready for class. Students, please turn to page 36 of the Taijutsu textbook. Today we will learn the 36 postures of Taijutsu, Kunshan Kao. Bang, bang, bang. Just when Yi Ran was preparing to go to class, suddenly the classroom door rang. Come in, Yi Ran said to the door. Squeak. After a voice passed. There was a young man standing at the door. Excuse me, is this the freshman and second class? The cold voice attracted everyone present to look at the door. At this moment, all the students were excited. Holy shit, this is a man or a woman. This face is too beautiful, isn't it? The skin is too smooth, isn't the facial features too straight? The golden ratio, what is the golden ratio? I used to think it was the ideal ratio mentioned in textbooks, but today I actually saw it alive. Beautiful beyond measure. One more look and I might pass out. Stop talking, there's a nosebleed. It's over, my brother is excited. Calm down, buddy, what if it's a man? Ah, a man, it's not impossible. Whether it's 36D or 2D, there's always one that will satisfy you. You are invincible. ... The students were busy discussing. Even Yi Ran didn't go to maintain order in the classroom. It's really because the young man in front of me is so beautiful. The 4 words, function and handsome, are. It was concretely reflected on the young man's face. Everyone's eyes were focused on the young man's face, and they couldn't pull it out at all. While everyone was discussing the young man in front of them, no one found it. Li Wancheng, sitting in the last row. He has quietly moved his seat to the far corner of the classroom. Bury your head deeply, as if he was afraid of being seen. Chapter 67. A gentleman's word. Huang Dongdong. The young man at the door is still cold. Don't care about other people's eyes at all. Calmly walk to Yi Ran. I handed over my student ID card. This is my student ID and transfer certificate. Yi Ran looked at the young man. This young man has no luck, so naturally he cannot see his attribute panel. Apart from the fact that this young man was extremely good looking, he didn't see anything wrong with this young man. I just took the student ID card and transfer documents and checked their authenticity. Nodded. No problem. This classmate, you are considered a member of our class. Please come up and introduce yourself. After hearing Yi Ran's request, the young man nodded. Then he stood on the podium generously and said to all the students present. Hello everyone, my name is Lan Moyan. From today on, we are all classmates. Please give me your advice. As soon as he finished speaking, the students applauded and welcomed him. Yi Ran said to Lan Moyan amidst the applause. Okay, Mo Yan, just sit in that seat first. Yi Ran pointed to the empty table at the back of the classroom. That table was moved by Wang Dakan to Huang Dongdong. There just happened to be a spot available. Lan Moyan and Huang Dongdong sat at the same table. Boom. Before Lan Moyan could finish speaking, there was suddenly a loud noise outside the classroom window. It was like the sound of heavy objects hitting the ground from high altitude. Everyone looked towards the window. Some good people even stretched their necks and looked out the window to see what was going on. No, someone jumped off the building. A sharp exclamation came from the window. At this moment, all the students stood up and left their seats. Everyone rushed towards the window, squeezing their heads and looking under the window. At this time, no one was seen on the lawn below the teaching building. Only a large pool of blood was left. Let me wipe. There is such a big pool of blood, it seems like someone really jumped off the building. Who can't think of it so hard that they jumped off the building? I just said that the high-pressure study policy for freshman year is unacceptable. Look, something is wrong. No, what age is it, and there are still people who choose to jump off buildings. Will that kill people? That's right, there is only a pool of blood left. Where are the people? Where are the people who jumped from the building? I guess he didn't jump to death, he ran away. Poor child, he has forgotten that he has cultivated himself, and now he can't kill anyone by jumping off a building. The students were busy discussing. When Yi Ran heard the students' discussion, his heart suddenly skipped a beat. No way, is this brat serious? Clang. Before the students could sit back from the window, suddenly the classroom door was knocked open. In an instant, everyone's eyes turned from the window to the door. At this time, a young man stood at the door, panting. This young man's head was covered in blood. I felt dizzy and seemed a little unsteady on my feet. When everyone took a closer look at the appearance of the bloody boy, Wang Dakan exclaimed, Huang Dongdong. It seemed that Wang Dakan's exclamation brought the dazed young man back to his senses. He looked at Wang Dakan and grinned. Finally, he wiped the blood from his face. Looking at Yi Ran on the podium, with a very arrogant tone, he said arrogantly, Teacher Yi, as a gentleman says, a horse cannot be chased. I, Huang Dongdong, will fulfill my bet. Looking at Huang Dongdong's head covered with blood, Yi Ran put a helpless hand on his face and raised his head not knowing what to say. This brat, I didn't expect to actually jump off the building. Not only did he jump off the building, and it really is as stated in the bet. No protective techniques were used. He took his own body and smashed it down. Huang Dongdong, come here. Listening to Yi Ran's call, Huang Dongdong limped up to Yi Ran. Yi Ran took out a tissue and wiped Huang Dongdong's wound that was still bleeding. You brat, you usually look pretty smart. Why did you do something so stupid this time? Huang Dongdong let Yi Ran use a tissue to wipe the blood for him. It seems that he can feel Yi Ran's concern for him. He smiled and said seriously, I want to say goodbye to my past. Hearing what Huang Dongdong said, Yi Ran stopped wiping the bloody hand. He looked at Huang Dongdong seriously. At this time, Huang Dongdong still had a smile on his face. But at this moment, he looked at the expression on Huang Dongdong's face. It felt like I had seen Wang Dakan. A little silly, but also a little serious. Although he still looks very clever. But the unruly and arrogant feeling before seems to have disappeared a lot. Seeing this, the corners of Yi Ran's mouth raised slightly. He felt a little relieved in his heart. It seems that this brat really listened to what he said. Although it's a bit stupid, what does it mean? This leap. Huang Dongdong said goodbye to his past. This leap. Huang Dongdong seems to be reborn. Well, I'm a little dizzy. While Yi Ran was thinking, the wound on Huang Dongdong's forehead was still bleeding. It may be due to excessive anemia. Huang Dongdong is now a little unsteady on his feet and stumbles a bit when speaking. Seeing that Huang Dongdong was about to fall, Yi Ran grabbed him and smiled helplessly. They are all careless students. In the end, they don't have to wipe their own butts. Then, Yi Ran held it with one hand. Suddenly a burst of light flashed, and a scepter appeared in Yi Ran's hand. This is the exclusive weapon that the system copied from Zhang Xiaoru before. The scepter of life and death. When Yi Ran manifested this exclusive weapon, students may not feel much. Lan Moyan and Li Wancheng, who were present, narrowed their eyes slightly. How did you do it? You didn't feel the slightest energy fluctuation at all. Li Wancheng muttered to himself. Before the two of them could figure it out, Yi Ran's mind moved slightly. In an instant, the head of the scepter of life and death. The huge gem began to condense green energy. Green energy is full of vitality and vitality. Even just a glance makes people feel more energetic. Skill. Gift of the goddess of life. Following Yi Ran's thoughts, the condensed green energy enveloped Huang Dongdong. The moment I came into contact with Huang Dongdong, the energy penetrated directly into Huang Dongdong's wound. Moment. Huang Dongdong's wounds began to appear at a speed visible to the naked eye. Stop bleeding and scab until it returns to normal. After Huang Dongdong's breath calmed down, Yi Ran looked at the scepter of life and death for a while. Contains skills. Gift of the goddess of life, 0/1, cooldown countdown, 0 hours 59 minutes and 59 seconds. It seems that the two skills of the scepter of life and death have a cooldown time of 1 hour. Yi Ran looked at the scepter with satisfaction. A curse skill, a healing skill. I can put it on once every hour, and the effect is good. Then, with a thought, Yi Ran retracted the scepter directly. Others had no reaction. At this time, the eyes of Li Wancheng and Lan Moyan were shining brightly. That's right, Yi Ran used it. It's an artifact that comes with skills. Chapter 68. Take him back to the military headquarters. It's not wrong. Although the Yi family's Malong Zongong is remarkable in killing. But he had never heard that the Yi family's Malong Zongong had therapeutic effects. So this healing energy definitely comes from the scepter itself. And you can clearly feel that the level of the healing energy is definitely not low. Li Wancheng touched his chin. This level is so high. In my impression, what I have seen, it seems that the Archangel of the Holy Court has such a handle in his hand. Holy relics of the Holy Court. Archangel's sword. That's the Archangel of the Holy Court. The face of the top Western powers. Even in the whole world, he is extremely capable of fighting. The person who truly stands at the top of the pyramid. Li Wancheng shook his head. Who would have thought of the second artifact they had seen? It actually came from the hands of an unknown little guy from Gaowu Academy in the Magic City. And, what was Yi Ran's method of conjuring this scepter? Why can't I see a little bit of energy fluctuation? Li Wancheng couldn't figure it out no matter how hard he thought about it. He looked at Yi Ran. At this moment, Yi Ran's mystery in his eyes deepened. Lan Moyan is much calmer than Li Wancheng, although he was also surprised by the artifact Yi Ran possessed. But, he was more happy than surprised. Break the iron rule of platinum. In 3 words, Bai Shu asked him to give him the desolate tower. Now another mysterious artifact has popped up. Isn't this the son of fate, Long Aotian, in the novels I often read? Think of this. The corners of his mouth raised slightly. He is indeed the person he likes. With the release of Yi Ran's skills, Huang Dongdong also slowly woke up from his coma. He touched the location of his wound with a surprised look on his face. Smooth and delicate, not even a scar. He tried to stand up again and jumped up and down, but his body didn't feel any discomfort at all. If it weren't for the trace of blood on his face, he even suspected that what he had just experienced was a dream. Okay, don't try it, Go back to your seat quickly. Oh, okay, teacher. Yi Ran's voice came. Huang Dongdong walked towards his seat obediently. When he walked to his seat, he stopped immediately, staring at Lan Moyan's face and unable to pull it out. Let me introduce to you. This is Lan Moyan, the new auditor in our class. From today on, he will be a part of our class. Yi Ran's voice came again. Huang Dongdong turned his head and looked at Yi Ran. So I'm not the last student to arrive in our class? Yi Ran nodded. You can say that. After hearing this, Huang Dongdong smiled. In other words, isn't this my little junior brother? After saying that, Huang Dongdong sat down very naturally. Stretched out his hand. Hello, my name is Huang Dongdong. According to seniority, you have to call me senior brother. After hearing this sentence, others seemed to have no reaction. Only Li Wancheng choked violently. The ignorant are fearless. Let a nation-killing extraordinary person call you little senior brother. Extremely crazy. Lan Moyan looked at Huang Dongdong's face, then looked down at Huang Dongdong's hands. He showed a very beautiful smile. He stretched out his hand, which was slender and smoother than that of a woman, and said with a smile. Hello, little senior brother. Puff. Before anyone else could say anything, Li Wancheng couldn't help but squirted. Everyone looked at Li Wancheng. Li Wancheng quickly raised his hand. It's okay, it's okay. I'm fine. I accidentally choked on my drink just now. Keep going, keep going. This kettle is a bit disobedient today. Then Li Wancheng hurriedly lowered his head and pretended to repair his kettle, not looking at Lan Moyan at all. After Li Wancheng finished speaking, no one paid attention to him anymore. Huang Dongdong turned his head to Lan Moyan and patted Lan Moyan's shoulder happily. He seemed very happy to have a little brother. Then the loyalty of the children of the world ignited. He patted his chest again. Don't worry, little junior brother. If you have any grievances in the future, tell your senior brother. Senior brother will protect you. Lan Moyan looked at the child with a smile. Thank you, senior brother. What a picture of brotherhood and unity. Li Wancheng had a strange expression. What the fuck is this messed up direction? Yi Ran coughed lightly, signaling Huang Dongdong to sit down. Okay, now let's continue class. Students, please turn to page 36 of the Taijutsu textbook. Today we will learn the 36 postures of Taijutsu, Kunshan Kao. Kun Shanyao comes from the Kun sect, a school created by an ancient great power. According to legend, this ancient great master came from a place called Aolian. He was extremely talented. In just 2.5 years, he directly realized Taoism. He became a master of the Kun fist and was invincible in his class. He finally defeated a person in a place called Shi. Sora was born. After this great power was born, he directly swept through the world and stood at the pinnacle of that era. Not only that, he did not hesitate in his own magical skills, opened up a wide range of doors, and taught millions of people in the world to learn Kun fist. Boxing is all the rage. Among them, Kunshan Q is the most iconic move and has also become the representative move of Kunquan. It's a pity that the good times did not last long. This great master died for some reason, leaving only this sect to be passed down. Later, in order to remember this great man, people in the world started to mold clay tires on the coal mountain where he fell, to restore his heroic appearance. Since this powerful man is named Ji alone, the coal produced on this coal mountain is also called Ji mud coal. Yi Ran explained the origin of Kunshan Mountain. With the addition of the teacher's soul, the students present were mesmerized by what they heard. Even Li Wancheng listened in for a brief moment. Li Wancheng came back to his senses and looked at Yi Ran deeply. Unexpectedly, as an extraordinary person, I actually listened to it. He sighed in his heart. Unexpectedly, at such a young age, Yi Ran not only knew so much history. We can also use historical origins as a guide. Attract students' attention. In order to deepen students' understanding of skills and moves. This ingenuity in teaching, this accumulation of history. Have to say, this guy's teaching level, amazing. For a time, Li Wancheng has a different understanding of Yi Ran. If Yi Ran followed him to the military headquarters, regardless of Yi Ran's personal strength, this teaching ability alone, it can definitely improve the personal strength of ordinary warriors by a large margin. To know, the military headquarters fights in a regimental manner. The improvement of an ordinary warrior may not show much. But if all ordinary warriors are improved, this effect is not as simple as 1 + 1 = 2. Quantitative changes will definitely lead to qualitative changes. Thinking of this, Li Wancheng narrowed his eyes slightly. We must take this kid back to the military headquarters. Chapter 69. Taking Huang Dongdong to cook. While Li Wancheng was thinking silently, he suddenly felt a murderous aura. As an extraordinary person, my sensitivity to qi movement is naturally at its peak. The source of the murderous aura was instantly identified. He looked up. What caught his sight at this moment was Lan Moyan's peerless face. Lan Moyan narrowed her eyes slightly. There is a chill on his face. Staring at Li Wancheng with an expression like a cat guarding its food. It was as if he was threatening Li Wancheng not to think anything wrong about Yi Ran. Li Wancheng quickly lowered his head, not looking at Lan Moyan. A good man doesn't suffer immediate losses. As a teaching assistant, if I can't beat you, why can't I write you down in a small notebook? As he spoke, Li Wancheng quickly wrote down in his notebook. Lan Moyan, row 10, column 9, was distracted in class, 1 point will be deducted. Li Wancheng just finished writing this sentence. I was just planning to admire it and satisfy my little desire for revenge. As a result, as soon as I lifted it up, a sword mark suddenly appeared on the small notebook. Cross out Lan Moyan's line very accurately. Is this even fucking okay? Li Wancheng looked at the very neat sword marks on his notebook in astonishment. He raised his head and looked at Lan Moyan again. At this time, Lan Moyan was also staring at herself. He is holding an ordinary carbon pen in his hand. He gestured lightly to the air. The threat in his eyes made Li Wancheng feel a little cold behind his back. Although he is called the shield of the empire, the great wall of steel, absolute defense. But facing Lan Moyan's sword, he still felt a little bit frightened. Although I don't know how Lan Moyan discovered her little moves. Li Wancheng still lowered his head. I respectfully wrote something in my notebook. Sorry. Being able to bend and stretch is what a man does. There is no shame in apologizing to a nation-killing extraordinary person. As an extraordinary person with a very flexible moral bottom line. This didn't bother him at all. Okay, that's it for today's class. I hope the students will review the historical origins and power-generating techniques of Kunshan reliance after class. See you in the next class. Just as the two extraordinary beings were secretly confronting each other, Yi Ran's class gradually came to an end. With the blessing of the teacher's soul. Yi Ran's class. Let no one of the students present feel tired. On the contrary, the expressions of each of the classmates still seemed to be unfinished. Some students even took the initiative to walk to the podium. Teacher Yi, I don't understand a little bit here. Can you explain it to me a little bit more? Teacher Yi, let me show you the Kunshan Ko. You can see if my technique of exerting force is correct. Teacher Yi, please don't leave yet. I would like to ask you something. What if you add the quick feet after Kunshan's support? In actual combat, the effect will be doubled. Teacher Yi, why does Kunshan get a bonus by wearing overalls? Teacher Yi. The students gathered around Yi Ran, asking questions in all directions. All the questions asked were related to this course. This studious diligence and enthusiasm. If I were in class 2 of the first grade half a year ago, this would have been something I wouldn't have dared to think about. Yi Ran took great pleasure in explaining each student's problem seriously. Every issue is answered in an incisive and insightful way. Let the students suddenly understand after hearing it. It's really awesome. If you come to the military headquarters, those ordinary soldiers will be really lucky. Li Wancheng sat in the last row and looked at Yi Ran. Yi Ran's explanation is also very efficient and accurate from an extraordinary perspective. With such a teacher, 100% the ability of the entire group will be greatly improved. Li Wancheng looked at Yi Ran greedily, and at Lan Moyan resentfully. Cheng Yaojin, who came out halfway. It seemed that he felt Li Wancheng's gaze. Lan Moyan didn't have to go back at all. I took out my carbon pen again. The moment he opened the cap of his pen, Li Wancheng lowered his head again. Time passed minute by minute. Yi Ran solved all the students' problems and confusions one by one. The students all returned to their seats with satisfied faces. They looked at Yi Ran with an inexplicable admiration. Indeed, during this period of time, with Yi Ran's guidance and help, each one has made a qualitative leap in success. Yi Ran's prestige in Class 1 and Class 2 has reached a level that can be called terrifying. It is precisely because of this prestige that's why there was the scene of prohibitions that Li Wancheng saw before. Huang Dongdong, you don't have to attend the next class. Come with me. After making sure that all the classmates were fine, Yi Ran looked at Huang Dongdong. Oh, okay Teacher Yi. Uncharacteristically, Huang Dongdong did not ask any questions this time. Instead, he stood up very quickly and followed Yi Ran out of the classroom. But Huang Dongdong left with his new junior brother, Lan Moyan. Originally, Li Wancheng saw Lan Moyan and followed him. Also prepared to follow. As a result, as soon as he stood up, he felt a slight chill in his crotch. Ding. After a crisp metal collision sound, Li Wancheng clearly saw the chair he had just sat on. There was a carbon pen that was bounced off by him. What a vicious Lan Moyan. He came up to cut off his family line. Li Wancheng pulled the carbon pen out of the chair and sat down again helplessly. If you don't let me go, then don't go. Why are you so angry? On the other side, Yi Ran and the other three walked side by side in the corridor, looking at each other in silence. After a while, Huang Dongdong couldn't help but look at Lan Moyan. Junior brother, the toilet is not in this direction. Lan Moyan looked at Huang Dongdong in confusion. I know, I'm not going to the toilet. Huang Dongdong looked at Lan Moyan and asked in confusion, if you're not going to the toilet, what are you going to do? I'm going with you. Hearing Lan Moyan's words, Huang Dongdong was a little amused. No, why are you following us? Lan Moyan looked at Huang Dongdong, then at Yi Ran. I'm afraid of school bullying. Listening to Lan Moyan's words, Huang Dongdong was a little confused. School bullying? What kind of reason is this? Lan Moyan said to Yi Ran. I'm new here and I'm not familiar with anything. I'll follow you, okay. Yi Ran looked at Lan Moyan. Although Lan Moyan had never used any moves in front of him, he couldn't see his attribute panel. But as a congenital Taoist body, he could very keenly feel that Lan Moyan was particularly in line with the Tao. He was sure that Lan Moyan was definitely a genius. How could Yi Ran refuse such a genius who was so active in following him? Yi Ran looked at Lan Moyan and said with a smile, of course. Chapter 70. What else can I refine? Of course I am refining you. In a short while, Yi Ran and the others have arrived at the school's forging building. This is a building specially built by the school for some teachers and students with blacksmithing talents and abilities, used for the forging and practice of this type of teachers and students. The whole building looks like a huge furnace. Even if you get a little closer, you can feel the hot air rushing towards your face. Occasionally, the whole building will flash red light slightly. A slightly sparkling plume of soot spewed from the top of the building. Teacher Yi, what are we doing here? Huang Dongdong looked at the huge furnace building and asked curiously. Of course I came here to practice something. Yi Ran answered naturally, staring closely at the furnace building. Looking at the soot ejected from the furnace, I thought thoughtfully. He murmured to himself. This temperature should be enough. The three people walked into the interior of the building. At this time, a fat man was lying at the reception desk of the building. This person is the freshman person in charge of the materials department and Shu Yukai's former follower, Shang Yaoqin. Due to the disappearance of the flesh and blood of the 3,000 ink dragons, he was demoted here by Shu Yukai as a receptionist. Since not many people come to the forging building on weekdays, so now Shang Yaoqin is lying on the front desk and soundly asleep. Bang, bang, bang. Yi Ran gently knocked on the table at the front desk. Shang Yaoqin, who was sleeping soundly, was frightened and trembled. Suddenly, a smart guy fell off the chair. Pop. After a loud noise, a layer of dust kicked up. When the dust disperses, Shang Yaoqin stood up from the ground awkwardly. He patted the dust on his pants. He opened his small eyes that were almost filled with flesh and looked at the three people in front of him. You three are planning to rent the forging room, right? Yi Ran nodded. After seeing Yi Ran's confirmation, Shang Yaoqin skillfully said to Yi Ran. Currently, our school's forging room is divided into 4 levels, namely the ordinary forging room, the fine forging room, the master's forging room and the grandmaster's forging room. The price of renting an ordinary forging room for a day is 4 credits. The price of renting a boutique forging room for a day is 10 credits. The price of renting a master forging room for a day is 20 credits. As for the master level forging, Shang Yaoqin looked at the 3 people in front of him and shook his head. We won't consider the grandmaster level forging room. After all, it still needs qualification verification. Listening to Shang Yaoqin's introduction, Yi Ran pointed upward. Then the whole building was covered in smoke that I saw outside. Which forging room can do that? Shang Yaoqin thought for a while and said. You're talking about that. Only a Grandmaster level forging room can do that. After all, the furnace in the Grandmaster level forging room was personally forged by our principal, who invited fire extraordinary people. The temperature and quality are simply unimaginable. I heard Shang Yaoqin say this. Yi Ran nodded and said to Shang Yaoqin, "We need to rent the Grandmaster forge." Hearing Yi Ran's words, Shang Yaoqin tried his best to widen his small mung bean-sized eyes. Didn't I make it clear just now? You can get into Grandmaster level forging by paying money. We need qualifications. Shang Yaoqin rejected Yi Ran's request righteously. However, Yi Ran was not in a hurry, and just waved to Shang Yaoqin quietly. Quietly, he put a dragon coin into Shang Yaoqin's hand. "Brother, I see you work hard here every day. Take it and reward yourself." Shang Yaoqin took the money and touched it, but still shook his head. "Dude, this is my job after all." Before Shang Yaoqin could finish his words, Yi Ran quietly handed another one to Shang Yaoqin. He was still asking for money uprightly, but now his face softened a little. The whole fat face became kind. "Hey, after all, we are all from the same school. Let me quietly release the permission and let us use it for 10 minutes. Before Shang Yaoqin could finish speaking, Yi Ran quietly gave Shang Yao the first 2 sheets. This time, the corners of Shang Yaoqin's mouth began to rise slightly. "Brother, stop talking. I will release this permission. You can use it as you like, but if anyone comes to rent it again, you have to come out in advance." Before Shang Yaoqin could finish speaking, Yi Ran quietly handed the first 3 pictures to Shang Yao. Shang Yao took the money and held Yi Ran's hand firmly. He patted his chest hard. "Brother, you can use it freely today. If anyone dares to disturb you, my name, Shang Yaoqin, is written backwards." Yi Ran looked at Shang Yaoqin and said with a smile. "That's hard work, brother." "Brothers, what's the point of talking about whether it's hard work or not?" As Shang Yaoqin spoke, he took Yi Ran and rushed straight to the forging room of the extraordinary world. It was as if it was his fault that he delayed Yi Ran for even 1 second. This series of operations made the inexperienced Huang Dongdong look stupid. Behind her, Lan Moyan looked at Yi Ran and raised the corners of her mouth slightly, not knowing what she was thinking. As if sensing Huang Dongdong's confusion, Yi Ran said lightly, "Master Huang, remember, the world is not about fighting and killing, it's about human relations." Seeing Yi Ran still teasing his dream of being a martial arts hero, Huang Dongdong curled his mouth and quietly made a face behind Yin Yen. After a while, Yi Ran and the others have arrived at the master-level forging room. The master-level forging style is simpler than those of other forging rooms. There are no other hammering tools around. There is only a huge furnace in the center. The furnace is also covered with various mysterious and powerful runes. With the flickering energy of the rune, the flames in the entire furnace continued to surge. The heat brought by each surge, it all makes people feel the burning pain on their face. Yi Ran stepped forward and observed the huge furnace. The heat of the furnace has almost doubled. As soon as Yi Ran got close to the furnace, the burning sensation that came over his face was like the jet of a fire dragon, piercing Yi Ran's face. Yi Ran also had to activate his own Malong Zan Gong to protect his body. This temperature should be enough. Yi Ran looked at the fire dragon surging in the furnace with satisfaction and murmured to himself. Huang Dongdong looked at Yi Ran curiously. "Teacher, what are you planning to practice for such a big battle?" After Yi Ran heard Huang Dongdong's inquiry, he turned his head and stared at Huang Dongdong. His eyes made Huang Dongdong feel a little hairy. "What else can I practice? Of course I should practice you." Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 71 The Will of Fire, Eternal. Looking at Yi Ran's natural look, Huang Dongdong looked left and right, pointing at himself with his finger. His eyes widened in disbelief. Are you kidding? This is a master-level furnace. It will kill people." Yi Ran took out a steel bar from somewhere and gently threw it into the furnace. Laugh. A sound of gasification sounded. The steel bar was instantly swallowed up by the flames in the furnace. Yi Ran nodded with satisfaction. "The temperature is okay. Take off your clothes quickly." "Temperature? Okay." When Huang Dongdong heard Yi Ran's words, he smiled in panic and embarrassment. "Teacher, are you kidding?" Yi Ran turned back and looked at Huang Dongdong. "Do you think I'm joking?" Looking at Yi Ran's serious expression, Huang Dongdong's originally worried heart completely died. Yi Ran looked at his watch and urged, "Take it off quickly. If you don't hurry up, You will waste time. You can't let Lan Moyan help you. Lan Moyan stood aside, confusion flashing in his eyes at this time. From his perspective, he couldn't even imagine what Yi Ran wanted to do. After all, Bai Shu likes to tinker with some space magic weapons on weekdays. He can also be considered a forging master. Therefore, Bai Shu has definitely worked hard to build this furnace. Mo Wu may cut corners elsewhere, but this place in the forging room is absolutely impossible. Such a melting pot, if even those materials with relatively high fire resistance are thrown in, they will probably melt in a few minutes. Lan Moyan looked at Huang Dongdong beside her. Doesn't this kid Yi Ran really want to throw him in? Lan Moyan secretly shook her head. Judging from the strength of Huang Dongdong in front of him, there is only one result if he goes in. Direct vaporization. And the operation of throwing people into a furnace. No matter how you look at it, it feels like you are destroying corpses and wiping out traces. At this moment, Lan Moyan was a little suspicious. Could this kid have a grudge against Yi Ran? Yi Ran turned his head. I found that neither of them moved. So he walked over helplessly. Yi Ran came to Huang Dongdong. Half squatting down, he looked straight at Huang Dongdong. Dongdong, did my master promise to help you create the Samadhi True Fire Golden Body? Huang Dongdong nodded. Yi Ran continued. Today I am going to fulfill my promise as a teacher, so you have to cooperate. Listening to Yi Ran's words. Cooperate. Cooperate with jumping into the furnace. The corner of Huang Dongdong's mouth twitched. Brother, jumping off a building is really my limit. Huang Dongdong looked at the fire dragon spouting out of the huge furnace and swallowed. I want to cast the Samadhi True Fire Golden Body, but I don't want to cast the Samadhi True Fire Golden Corpse. There was already a hint of panic in Huang Dongdong's eyes. He stammered and said to Yi Ran. Old teacher, aren't we being a little too aggressive in doing this? Yi Ran waved his hand. If you don't rush in, why rush in? The temperature is just right. Hearing Yi Ran's words, Huang Dongdong's mouth couldn't help but twitch. The temperature is just right. Is the temperature just right for cooking? When his master Huo Wen helped him try to create the Samadhi True Fire Golden Body, they are just using their own fire energy very carefully. Continuous and slight attempts to increase the dosage. If there is a slight reaction of scorching or body collapse, Huo Wen will cut off the firepower immediately. Even though there is a diamond-level fire master carefully controlling it. The few times I tried, I almost got seriously injured. It's better now. Yi Ran took one step directly, brought himself to the master-level furnace, and let himself jump. Teacher, I am a human being, not some weapon refining material. Besides, even a lot of refining materials can't withstand this temperature. Looking at Huang Dongdong's expression of sadness and anger, but also some fear. Yi Ran naturally knew what he was thinking. Yi Ran patted Huang Dongdong's shoulder and said to Huang Dongdong. Dongdong, do you still remember how those seniors of your Huoxing sect who created the Samadhi True Fire Golden Body succeeded? Huang Dongdong heard Yi Ran's question. He started to clasp his fingers like a treasure. There are a total of 5 successful seniors, 3 of whom were created naturally, and the remaining 2, one broke through while fighting a fire-type beast, and the last one broke through while fighting against a fire-type supernatural being. Yi Ran nodded. 3 of the 5 seniors were born naturally because of their extraordinary talents. Let's leave it aside for now. Think about the other 2 carefully. What do they have in common? Huang Dongdong followed Yi Ran's topic and thought. Fight. Push the limits. Yi Ran shook his head. You're right, but not entirely right. The other 2 did break through themselves in the battle and became golden bodies, but if you think about it carefully, who are their opponents? Huang Dongdong thought. A fire-based beast, a fire-based superpower. Huang Dongdong suddenly realized, they both achieved breakthroughs by fighting against strong fire-based people. The focus is on fire. Tai. Yi Ran nodded. Good understanding. He patted Huang Dongdong's head and continued. The key to building a golden body is not to fight, but to break through the limits of life in the blazing heat. Dongdong, in terms of the limit of your talent, it is difficult to compare with those 3 naturally formed seniors, so you have to take another path. Like the other 2 seniors, you can refine your skills under the scorching flames. Transform your own impurities and create a golden body between life and death. After hearing what Yi Ran said, Huang Dongdong, who was still a little panicked before, also calmed down. What Yi Ran said opened his mind. He now understood why Yi Ran was so persistent that he wanted to jump into the furnace by himself. Although there is some truth in saying this, but Huang Dongdong felt the heat rushing towards his face. I couldn't help but ask. But teacher, is the temperature of this furnace too high? If I jump in, I might be dead before I can feel the difference between life and death. Yi Ran looked at Huang Dongdong and shook his head. Dongdong, you underestimate the fire-fighting skills of your fire sect. Yi Ran stood up and looked at the bright red flames that were constantly surging in the furnace. Asked softly, tell me, what is the last move of your fire-fighting technique called? Hearing Yi Ran's question, Huang Dongdong blurted out. The will of fire. You're right. Yi Ran looked at Huang Dongdong and said seriously. This will of fire has another name among the earliest fire-based combat skills. It's called endless life. Chapter 72. If you didn't pass down much, don't blame me for making it up. Life goes on forever. Huang Dongdong recited what Yi Ran said. His big eyes were full of confusion. He looked up at Yi Ran. Teacher, are you sure? My master doesn't seem to know that the last move is called endless life. Huh, I don't know. Yi Ran smiled awkwardly. It seems that the information provided by the system is too detailed, and it actually exceeds the inside information held by the Huoxing sect itself. Yi Ran couldn't help but shook his head. This is the disadvantage of a single lineage. What people accept and recognize is ultimately biased and focused. There is something missing from the generational inheritance. The next generation's inheritance lacks something. Once you meet a few more bad-tempered heirs who only like to fight and don't like to study, that would be a disaster for the inheritance of the fire element sect. It is estimated that many secrets of the fire element sect have been lost in the long river of history from generation to generation. What else did your master teach you about the fire sect? Yi Ran asked. Huang Dongdong touched his forehead and thought for a while, then said to Yi Ran. Except for master being very familiar with fire fighting techniques, other fire history and other things seem to be vague. Thinking of this, Huang Dongdong frowned. Master always tells me that children don't need to know these things. He will tell me when I grow up. After hearing this, Yi Ran probably understood a lot about the current situation of the fire sect. It is said that the disciples of the fire element sect all have hot tempers and are as vulgar as warriors. Now it seems that the reputation is well deserved. It seems that the Huoxing sect has been able to pass down the techniques completely and has not completely disappeared, which can be considered a blessing from God. Thinking of this, Yi Ran felt relieved. Since you didn't pass down much, don't blame me for making it up. Cough, cough. Yi Ran coughed twice and said to Huang Dongdong. The reason why your master told you this may really be true. I can only tell you that the reason why I know this is because I saw your fire in an ancient book called Naruto. The relevant history of Xingzong. The predecessor of your fire sect was also very prosperous for a while. There were tens of millions of followers at that time, and they even formed an extremely powerful tribe in ancient times. The name is Konoha. The leader of your fire sect is also called Hokage in this country. Each generation of Hokage takes the protection of Konoha as their own duty, relies on fire fighting skills to conquer all directions, and devotes his life to the people of the tribe. The ultimate secret skill of each generation of Hokage is also called the Will of Fire. In this way, the unique skills of each generation of Hokage are accumulated bit by bit, and slowly the last move of the fire movement's record is the Will of Fire. And throughout the Konoha tribe, there is a widely circulated saying about the Will of Fire. Yi Ran looked at Huang Dongdong and said seriously. Wherever the leaves dance, the fire grows. After hearing what Yi Ran said, Huang Dongdong was stunned. He did not expect that his fire sect had such a history in ancient times. Wherever the leaves are flying, the fire is endless. Huang Dongdong was stunned for a moment and murmured to himself. Yi Ran's voice came again. Wherever the leaves are flying, the fire will surely burn, and the blazing fire will illuminate the entire tribe. After the fire is extinguished, the leaves will sprout again. As soon as these words came out, Huang Dongdong's brain exploded. Yes, the leaves will be burned by the flames. The ashes after burning will become nutrients for the leaves to sprout again next time. The vitality is exhausted in the flames, and will be reborn in the flames. Could it be said that endless life is really the secret of the Will of Fire? At this moment, Huang Dongdong seemed to feel a bright light in front of him. And he seemed to have caught this light. Dongdong, wildfires never burn out, but the spring breeze blows again. Yi Ran patted Huang Dongdong's shoulder and said seriously. Although I don't know why, your fire sect didn't pass down the secrets of those two seniors, but I can tell you clearly that the most critical thing to break through the Samadhi true fire golden body lies in your fire fighting skills, the last resort. Huang Dongdong retracted his thoughts and looked at Yi Ran with bright eyes. Teacher, tell me what to do, and I will listen to you. Yi Ran looked at Huang Dongdong's serious and enthusiastic expression. That eager attitude, I guess if Huang Dongdong is asked to jump now, he will do it. Sure enough, a boy of this age has no resistance to hot-blooded comics. Yi Ran didn't talk nonsense and said to Huang Dongdong, now use your will of fire and let me see. After hearing this, Huang Dongdong's eyes froze and his whole body was on fire. Bass. After a clear sound, the flames around Huang Dongdong were already burning brightly. The energy enveloped Huang Dongdong inside. At this time, Huang Dongdong's eyebrows turned into flames. The hair also stood up. It started to sway like a flame. This is the last form of the fire fighting technique, the will of fire. It is a form-changing skill, able to stretch one's own affinity for flames to the extreme that one's own talent can achieve. Yi Ran looked at Huang Dongdong's will of fire and nodded with satisfaction. With such a high flame affinity, his talent is really good. Huang Dongdong looked at Yi Ran with a wry smile on his lips. But teacher, in this form, Master and I have also tried, but in the end we failed. Yi Ran nodded. Of course it was all in vain. The attempts you mentioned must have been only superficial attempts. None of them have truly faced the test of life and death. Am I right? Listening to what Yi Ran said, Huang Dongdong nodded. Indeed, every time I try to output bit by bit under the special protection of Huo Wen. I would never consider the risk to my life. Yi Ran shook his head and said to Huang Dongdong, multiple attempts not only bring about multiple failures, but also make you completely fearful of flames. Coupled with your previously unruly character, it's difficult to temper your heart. How can a person who can't bear the fire in his heart and is afraid of flames create a golden body of Samadhi true fire? After hearing these words, Huang Dongdong lowered his head unconsciously. Teacher Yi analyzed that there was no problem at all. In a situation like his, if you can still create a golden body of Samadhi true fire, that would be called unreasonable. Thinking of this, Huang Dongdong recalled Yi Ran's previous experiences with him. With a smart mind, he gradually understood Yi Ran's previous behavior. So, teacher, your previous deliberate suppression and lectures were just to get rid of my arrogant temperament. Yi Ran nodded and pointed at the hot furnace. Dongdong, now that your inner demon has been eliminated, as long as you dare to face life and death, put yourself into the situation, and go to the gate of hell for a real experience, the golden body of Samadhi true fire will surely reappear in the world today. Chapter 73 Endless Excitement. Yi Ran's words. Huang Dongdong's words were filled with passion. After all, the fire sect has not seen a practitioner of Samadhi true fire golden body for nearly 100 years. To be honest, the sect has lost its former glory. And today, Huang Dongdong is about to save the building from falling. It is our duty to rebuild the glory of the fire element. Huang Dongdong's middle-class soul is burning brightly. Teacher, I'm going then. Huang Dongdong said and strode towards the entrance of the furnace. There was determination in his eyes. If you don't die, you will become benevolent. Huang Dongdong turned his head and looked at Yi Ran with a passionate expression. Wherever the wooden leaves are flying, fire is endless, and the will of fire will be passed down by me. After saying that, Huang Dongdong jumped into the high-temperature furnace without hesitation, and his whole body was instantly swallowed up by the fire dragon. After Huang Dongdong jumped in, Yi Ran and Lan Moyan quickly arrived at the mouth of the furnace. Looking down, after all, Lan Moyan is a Tuguo-level transcendent. His eyes shone slightly with sharpness like sharp blades. It seems to be able to split the layers of flames. At a glance, he saw Huang Dongdong's figure in the hot furnace fire. At this time, Huang Dongdong was not completely vaporized by the furnace as expected. The fiery red light around him tightly protected Huang Dongdong's body. All the lava that wants to invade Huang Dongdong is under the fiery red flames. It was transformed into pure fire element and poured into Huang Dongdong's body. Just like this, Huang Dongdong, in the blending of the two flames. Go with the flow. Lan Moyan was also slightly surprised when she saw this. Unexpectedly, the fire will of the fire sect could really allow Huang Dongdong to survive in this ultra-high temperature furnace. Lan Moyan looked at Yi Ran aside. The secret of the fire sect that Yi Ran told Huang Dongdong before. He has never heard of it, and he can't tell the difference between true and false. But Huang Dongdong's current state. This completely proves what Yi Ran said before. Lan Moyan's expression was a little complicated. These secrets have not been passed down even by the fire element sect. Why does this kid Yi Ran know everything? Teacher Yi, where did you find the ancient book on Naruto you mentioned? I also want to browse. Lan Moyan asked. Yi Ran turned his head and looked at Lan Moyan. Ah, you are talking about that ancient book. I accidentally found that book in the principal's collection. It is indeed not very easy to borrow. Yi Ran thought for a while and made up a reason. It would be best to blame this matter on the principal. After all, as a student, you are too embarrassed to go to the principal to borrow books. Is it in vain? Lan Moyan nodded slightly when he heard Yi Ran's words. Based on Bai Shu's age and experience, it is indeed reasonable. I didn't expect this old guy to hide so many treasures. If you have a chance in the future, you must borrow it from Bai Shu and take a look. Time passed minute by minute. The will of fire that Huang Dongdong maintained reached a wonderful balance with the hot molten flames. Huang Dongdong's body has gradually lost its original color. The whole body is golden red. It was as if the Buddha was plated with gold. But just when everything was going well, changes occur suddenly. Huang Dongdong is in the melting pot. His brows began to frown, and he made an extremely painful expression on his face. As Huang Dongdong's expression changed, the golden red energy around Huang Dongdong also began to sway back and forth unsteadily. The wonderful balance was broken instantly. In the melting pot, the fiery energy is like a raging dragon, tossing back and forth. Even the whole furnace began to shake. After seeing this scene, Lan Moyan looked at Yi Ran. How is this going? Lan Moyan at this time. One hand has begun to gather energy slightly. Once Yi Ran says something is wrong, he was planning to come to the rescue. Yi Ran, who was paying full attention to Huang Dongdong, did not see Lan Moyan's movements. He looked at Huang Dongdong attentively and said, "It's time to temper the inner fire." Now Huang Dongdong is in the most critical step of tempering the Samadhi true fire golden body. Once he steps through, he will have unlimited future. If he fails to step through, he will be shattered into pieces and burned to ashes. Lan Moyan looked down and frowned slightly. But it seems that Huang Dongdong can't hold it anymore. At this time, Huang Dongdong's whole body began to tremble painfully. The golden red energy around him was as thin as a piece of tissue paper. As if in a furnace. Any next surge, there is a chance to pierce Huang Dongdong's film. Huang Dongdong at this time. The whole person is like a lonely boat floating in the turbulent sea. Any storm could knock him into the sea, and he would never recover. Why do you think that in the thousands of years of Huoxing sect's history, only 5 people have successfully tempered the Samadhi true fire golden body? Yi Ran was still looking at Huang Dongdong in the furnace attentively, and responded to Lan Moyan's words. Question. The world can only see the glorious postures of the 5 successful people, but they can't see the thousands of failed people behind them. Any road to the top is not that easy. Wealth and honor are sought in danger, but also lost in danger. 1 out of 10 times we seek it, and 9 out of 10 times we lose it. What Huang Dongdong has experienced is just a repeat of the history of his fire sect and the geniuses of past generations for thousands of years. Seeing Yi Ran's calm posture, Lan Moyan also gently relaxed her fingers. All this seems to be within Yi Ran's expectation. Yi Ran looked at the painful Huang Dongdong in the furnace. At this time, the golden red energy around Huang Dongdong had begun to appear broken in some places. His golden body, which was already in bad shape, began to burn and turn black under the erosion of the hot flames. Yi Ran looked at the painful Huang Dongdong, his eyes became calmer and calmer. He looked up at his watch, then looked at the sky, muttering to himself. Keep on holding on, we're almost there. Time is passing by in this silence, minute by minute. Huang Dongdong's 2 arms have become completely burnt black. At this time, Huang Dongdong no longer even struggled. The vital signs have almost dropped to the point of being unobservable. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yi Ran looked at his watch, and when he counted to 1, Yi Ran suddenly took out a fire crystal core from his pocket. Lan Moyan could tell at a glance that this was an extraordinary fire crystal core. Very valuable. As a result, Yi Ran didn't even look at it. Throw the fire crystal core directly into the furnace. The crystal nuclei are stimulated by the high temperatures of these furnaces, directly detonating the huge fire energy in his crystal core. The molten flames in the furnace were like a shot in the arm. The red ones have started to turn a little purple. In an instant, the golden red energy around Huang Dongdong that was still struggling to support was shattered by the violent fire element. At this moment, Huang Dongdong faced the blazing heat with his body. Crazy. Lan Moyan, who was still waiting for Yue Ran's move, shook her head after seeing this scene. He couldn't wait any longer. Lan Moyan flexed his fingers slightly, his sword intention began to gather, and he planned to go directly to save people. But Yue Ran's voice sounded in his ears at this moment. Wildfire, in spring. Huang Dongdong, give me a life. When Yue Ran shouted angrily. The sun is directly overhead. The dazzling sunlight penetrated the furnace along the sky. The blazing flames, the scorching sun, and the violent fire elements complement each other. The intensity of the flames in the furnace reached its peak at this moment. The extreme heat destroys all life. And on Huang Dongdong's withered body. But there was endless agitation. Chapter 74 Huang Dongdong is walking his own path. The extreme flames destroyed all Huang Dongdong's vitality. Huang Dongdong's body was charred black, and not a single intact skin could be seen on his body. But the strange thing is, such high temperature did not completely vaporize Huang Dongdong. Not only that, Huang Dongdong, who had lost all consciousness and vitality, was lying flat on his back and was actually dragged out by the flames. The whole person is suspended above the mouth of the furnace. This is, Lan Moyan had already dissipated the energy in her hands. He looked at Huang Dongdong who was lifted up by the flames, feeling a little stunned. Even though he is a nation-killing extraordinary person. But he has never seen this situation before. Plop. 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 ... In the silent space. The sound of the heartbeat clearly reached the ears of Lan Moyan and Yue Ran. At this moment, Lan Moyan's pupils shrank slightly. Looking at the charred body in disbelief. Heartbeat. No, it's life. Buzz. On Huang Dongdong's charred body. Wave after wave of invisible ripples swayed. The vitality that rushes towards you. Clear and distinct. Click. With a shattering sound. Traces of cracks began to appear on Huang Dongdong's charred body. Bada. Bada. The charred shell began to fall off. Inside the blackened shell, Huang Dongdong's skin was exposed. White, smooth and delicate. Rich in elasticity visible to the naked eye. Like a newborn. After a while, the charred black shell on Huang Dongdong's body completely fell off. Huang Dongdong is intact as ever. Appeared in front of the two of them again. Huang Dongdong is alive. Miracle. This scene made Lan Moyan couldn't help but sigh in admiration. After all, he had already concluded that Huang Dongdong was devoured by this violent fire element. But he didn't expect Yue Ran to perform a miracle in front of him. The next second, Huang Dongdong slowly opened his eyes. He clenched his fist in disbelief. He looked at Yue Ran again. Teacher, I'm still alive. Yue Ran looked at Huang Dongdong who had gained a new life, and nodded. You are not only alive, you are alive and well. Put on your clothes first. Only then did Huang Dongdong realize that he didn't have any clothes on him. Embarrassed, he instantly raised a flame, covering his body. Then at lightning speed, I found a piece of clothing used for forging next to the forging room and put it on. There was no way, my previous clothes had been burned in the furnace, not even the dregs were left. Yue Ran looked at Huang Dongdong with a smile. How do you feel? Huang Dongdong felt his body slightly and grinned. It's great, I've never felt better than right now. Yue Ran nodded and said to Huang Dongdong. Try now, use your will of fire again. Okay, teacher. After Huang Dongdong responded, he began to hold his breath and concentrate. Oops. Sound. The golden red energy around Huang Dongdong appeared again. But this time, not only were golden red flames appearing all around. Huang Dongdong's body actually began to glow with a golden red light. Teacher, this is. At this time, Huang Dongdong looked at the changes in his body and felt the surging energy. He looked a little excited. He guessed that he might have succeeded in creating it, but he didn't dare to completely believe in himself. At this time, Yue Ran did not answer Huang Dongdong directly. He just turned around and pointed at the huge furnace. Try jumping down again this time. Huang Dongdong nodded vigorously with excitement. It instantly turned into a meteor and rushed into the furnace. This time Huang Dongdong didn't feel any heat or burning after entering. He swam in the flames. Even Huang Dongdong could feel those fierce flames pestering him like puppies. Chasing Huang Dongdong, rubbing Huang Dongdong affectionately. Huang Dongdong's thoughts moved. The huge flames were like surging waves, directly lifting themselves up. And I stood on the top of the waves composed of flames. Like the emperor of this red ocean. Seeing Huang Dongdong's performance, Lan Moyan's calm eyes finally showed a look of shock. Ignoring any high-temperature erosion, use the flame energy like your arms. This kind of flame affinity is the ultimate. And he had only seen this happen to one person. That is another one of the three pillars of the demon city. The slaughtering of the nation is extraordinary. Flame Devourer, Flame King, Fire God, I wish you the best. Lan Moyan looked deeply at Huang Dongdong above the flame waves. Is this the so-called Samadhi true fire golden body? Let a mere golden boy, with his affinity for flames, directly promoted to a level comparable to a nation-killing fire type extraordinary. For a time, Lan Moyan's eyes were fixed on Yi Ran. It can be said that Huang Dongdong's current achievements were all made possible by Yi Ran. I originally thought that Yi Ran's teaching ability in class was already top-notch. But compared with such miracles, they are just like a peacock flying in the sky. This trip was not in vain. Yi Ran's level of evil is far beyond his imagination. For a moment, Lan Moyan thought of Li Wancheng sitting at the back of the classroom. No, Li Wancheng cannot know this. Lan Moyan thought for a moment. We have to find a way to send Li Wancheng to the hospital first. Huang Dongdong thought in his mind. Moment. Those flames that supported themselves were very obedient and returned to the furnace again. The furnace seemed extremely calm at this time. There is no trace of the irritability that was constantly surging before. It feels like an obedient pet. Huang Dongdong came to Yi Ran's side like flying. There was unprecedented excitement in his expression. I was so excited that I couldn't even speak coherently. Teacher, I really succeeded. Yi Ran looked at Huang Dongdong with a smile and nodded. Congratulations, the glory of the fire sect will be built again from you. After getting Yi Ran's affirmative answer, Huang Dongdong's eyes began to turn red slightly. Teacher, maybe it's because he has completed the great achievements of the fire sect over the past 100 years. Maybe it was because he was grateful for Yi Ran's help to him. All in all kinds of complicated emotions came to my mind. After all, the young Huang Dongdong lacked the composure of an adult. There was already moisture in the eyes. Just when Huang Dongdong was extremely excited, Yi Ran's voice came again. Don't be too excited now. Try your best to feel your strength now. After hearing this, Huang Dongdong closed his eyes, and his whole body began to silently perform the fire exercise. In an instant, golden red flames swept through Huang Dongdong's body again. Samadhi true fire golden body, open. As Huang Dongdong's eyes suddenly opened, golden red energy filled his pupils. The surface of the skin also began to glow with a golden red light. Dongdong, silently feel the movement of energy around you, silently appreciate the element of fire around you. As Yi Ran's voice came again, Huang Dongdong closed his eyes and began to seriously feel the flow of fire elements around him. It's still pitch black. In an instant, Huang Dongdong felt flames rising one after another around him. These flames are all kinds of strange and have different shapes. It seemed that he felt Huang Dongdong's importance to them. These flames flew towards Huang Dongdong very well, continuously blending into Huang Dongdong's golden red energy. Huang Dongdong only felt warm and extremely comfortable around him. From Lan Moyan's perspective, he could keenly feel that all the fire elements around him began to condense towards Huang Dongdong. Some strange rhythmic changes have occurred in the entire space. This is a change in the rules of the deepest realm. As a nation-killing transcendent, he can naturally clearly feel what Huang Dongdong is doing at this moment. The kid in front of me is actually forming his own domain rules. In other words, Huang Dongdong is walking his own path. Chapter 75 The Tao of the Upper Third Level, the Personal Disciple Huang Dongdong. Lan Moyan was a little surprised. Huang Dongdong before had only barely reached the state of golden perfection. There is still a long way to go before we can walk out of our own way. In Lan Moyan's view, without 3 or 4 years of accumulation, Huang Dongdong would never have been able to embark on the road to enlightenment. But I never expected that. Just today, in less than half a day, Huang Dongdong, under Yi Ran's guidance, not only did he create a golden body, He even skipped the 3 to 4 years that other geniuses would have to go in one step. Moreover, the intensity of this law that Huang Dongdong has condensed. The grade doesn't seem to be very low. Lan Moyan's eyes sparkled, as if she wanted to see through Huang Dongdong at a glance. The leap from gold to platinum. The most important thing is to gain enlightenment. And enlightenment is also divided into 3, 6 or 9 levels. Everyone generally divides the levels of enlightenment into grades 1 to 9. Among them, the first rank is the most respected, and the 9th rank is the least. Ranks 6 to 9 are the small way, grades 4 to 5 are the middle way, and grades 3 to 1 are the great way. The level of enlightenment also determines whether the person's road ahead will be easy and whether the person's combat effectiveness will be strong. For example, some people have realized the secrets of 8th and 9th grades. Then the limit of his life is the diamond level. Just like the Korean group. Relying on his own special power, the White Jade Lion. The way of Jade transformation evolved from the innate magical power. For the 8th and 9th grade paths. Among the paths taken by the strong platinum men, it is the path that is relatively easy to understand. Although it is strange and difficult to deal with, it is not enough to trigger the laws of heaven and earth. Potential for future growth is limited. And those who have realized the 3rd level of the Great Way. Most of them are based on the most basic laws of nature. To form a certain degree of resonance between oneself and the whole world. It leads to changes in the heaven and earth, causing strange phenomena in the heaven and earth. The difficulty of this can be imagined, but the potential is also unlimited. Whether it is the progress of practice or personal strength, it is far beyond the reach of a platinum expert who has understood the lower 3rd grade path. Lan Moyan carefully observed the flame elements condensed around Huang Dongdong. Huang Dongdong at this time. It is based on the law of fire element and condenses its own avenue. Although there is currently only the rudiment of Tao, it has not yet fully formed, and it has not caused any strange phenomena in heaven and earth. So it's hard for him to make a judgment. Just look at the quality and strength of this prototype. It's definitely not as simple as lowering the 3rd grade. It should be at least the level of the middle 3rd grade. If you are lucky, you may reach the 3rd level. Just when Lan Moyan was still thinking about the changes in Huang Dongdong. The golden red flames around Huang Dongdong began to dissipate. Huang Dongdong touched his head in embarrassment and looked up at Yi Ran. Teacher Yi, I'm sorry. I seem to have caught something, but I didn't catch it completely and let it slip away. Yi Ran nodded and said calmly. What's there to be sorry for? It's normal. If you could take the road to the 3rd level so easily, all the heroes in the world would die. After hearing this, Lan Moyan looked at Yi Ran again. It is obvious that Huang Dongdong did not cause any strange phenomenon in heaven and earth. Why was Yi Ran so sure that Huang Dongdong understood the path to the 3rd level? Even I can't see this for the time being. Up to the 3rd level. Huang Dongdong repeated Yi Ran's words in shock. He is not some ignorant village man from the countryside. As the only successor of the sect, he naturally knew these things about Bai Jin's enlightenment in advance. At that time, Huo Wen also took him to visit powerful people to help him predict what level of Tao he could realize based on his level. After seeing Huang Dongdong's qualifications, most of them, the conclusion is that it is most likely that the enlightenment is at the 5th to 4th level. The future potential may be stronger than Hoving, but it's not much better. But now Yi Ran told him. The Tao that I have realized is at least the 3rd level Tao. This made Huang Dongdong a little stunned and excited for a while. This is the 3rd grade. I never dared to think of reaching the 3rd level before. I had just created the Samadhi True Fire Golden Body, and now I told myself that I was about to embark on the path to the 3rd level. The successive shocks of happiness made him feel a little unreal. But teacher, I obviously didn't cause any strange phenomena in the world. Huang Dongdong said uncertainly. Yi Ran waved his hand and looked at Huang Dongdong with a smile. Be confident. If I say there is, then there must be. It is a truly small probability event that a person with Samadhi True Fire Golden Body can walk through the 4th and 5th levels of the Tao. Then Yi Ran continued. I just observed that you have basically formed the rudiment of Tao, but it will still take some time before you can truly walk out of your own Tao. Starting from today, you need to concentrate on retreat and practice, and seriously feel every element related to fire in the space. Keep going like this, and in less than half a month, you will achieve platinum status and walk your own path. Listening to Yi Ran's teaching to Huang Dongdong, Lan Moyan was a little confused. Why is this kid so confident? He has never seen any teacher dare to tell another person with such certainty how many days it will take to successfully achieve enlightenment. Tao, this kind of thing. Mysterious and mysterious. Some people may spend their entire lives unable to follow their own path. Even if it's just a last resort, some people will be stuck here for 2 to 3 years or even 10 years. There are countless young heroes who are stuck here. That's why, the reason why Platinum is a watershed on the path of spiritual practice. If before, some people told themselves that they could accurately predict how many days it would take for others to realize the Tao, Lan Moyan would definitely sneer at it. But after experiencing Yi Ran's miraculous operation on Huang Dongdong, Lan Moyan was a little shaken. Even when Yi Ran said such words, in his heart, he could not help but believe Yi Ran's words. This is true for Lan Moyan, not to mention Huang Dongdong. At this time, Huang Dongdong had already regarded what Yi Ran said as a guideline. Teacher Yi said it was half a month, so it must be half a month. If you are absent from work for more than 1 day, it is God's fault and it is definitely not Teacher Yi's problem. When I think that I am about to realize the way to the 3rd level. Huang Dongdong became excited. At this moment, he was extremely lucky that when he saw an injustice in the cafeteria, he drew his sword to help. If it hadn't been for that time, how could his fate have intersected with Yi Ran's? If I hadn't met Teacher Yi, how can I complete the great deeds that the fire sect has not accomplished in hundreds of years? If I hadn't met Teacher Yi, how could I find a way to reach the 3rd level in just a few days? It can be said that my future has been completely rewritten by Teacher Yi. It is precisely because of Teacher Yi's support that I have grown from an ordinary genius who lives in a corner to evolve into a monster who is qualified to ascend to the top stage of the world. Teacher Yi did not break his promise. Now I really have the potential to be on par with S-class superpowers. Thinking of this, the tears in Huang Dongdong's eyes began to roll again. Yi Ran helplessly wiped the tears on Huang Dongdong's face. Didn't I say it before? Children of the world should bleed and sweat, but not shed tears. It's okay if Yi Ran doesn't comfort him. This comfort. Huang Dongdong could not control his inner emotions at all. The tears that were holding on fell down directly. Teacher Yi, from today on, you are my second master. Your Majesty, my disciple, please bow to me. Huang Dongdong took a step back as he spoke. He knelt down and kowtowed 3 times to Yi Ran. At this time, the system's cool and pleasant sound sounded. It started to ring in Yi Ran's ears. Ding! Congratulations to the host for successfully completing the task and tutoring a student. The rewards for this tutoring are being distributed. Close black lens bracket. Ding! It is detected that the teaching subject has high respect for the host. Should he be bound as a direct disciple? Close black lens bracket. Chapter 76, The Curse of a Python and a Bird. EMMM. Yi Ran looked at Huang Dongdong kneeling on the ground. I looked at the system again. Personal disciple. This is not good. After all, I just wanted Huang Dongdong to be an exchange student in the sect. Provide insurance for your class's final assessment. It's good now. I haven't had time to get insurance yet. Everyone is now running away from the fire element sect. This is so embarrassing. How embarrassing it would be if we really met the leader of the fire element sect in the future. Too uncouth. Yi Ran silently clicked yes on the system with tears in her eyes. Ding! Congratulations to the host for gaining a direct disciple. Close black lens bracket. Ding! Congratulations to the host for receiving this system reward. 5 Clawed Golden Dragon Emperor Soul 1. Before Yi Ran could check the rewards from the system. Moment. The training bonus from being bound to Huang Dongdong has been received. Yi Ran only felt an inexplicable force pouring into his body. The whole popularity machine is buzzing. The breath begins to rise. The power of the ink dragon appeared and disappeared, and began to circle around the body. Lan Moyan is extremely sensitive to qi. He noticed the changes in Yi Ran at a glance. What's going on with this kid? I just got a disciple, why did my strength start to soar? Yi Ran's eyes were slightly closed at this time. Carefully feel the changes in your body. At this time, the power of the ink dragon. Under his inner vision, he had materialized into a real black ink dragon. This ink dragon is huge, with majestic eyes. The breath he exhaled between breaths rolled up a cloud of mist. In insight consciousness, Yi Ran gently stretched out his hand. Malong also slowly lowered his head at this time. Touch Yi Ran's palm with the huge dragon head. The moment my palm touched the dragon's head, Yi Ran and Mo Long began to feel like they were in harmony. Yi Ran turned over and stood on the dragon's head. Roar. As the loud roar of the dragon sounded, Mo Long understood and carried Yi Ran directly towards the sky. Between the rolling clouds and mist, Yi Ran and his own Mo Long power were completely integrated. Yi Ran's energy is also in this wonderful spiritual journey. Crazy surge. When the breath surges to its peak, Mo Long suddenly stopped. It's like being pulled by something. Yi Ran felt frustrated during the inner meditation. Looking back, the huge ink dragon showed its full appearance. And at the bottom of this ink dragon, there were actually two claws firmly attached to Mo Long's lower body. The hooks and claws are filled with coldness, pulling hard at the flesh and blood of the ink dragon. Those two hooks, an extremely cold, like huge snake head bites Mo Long's body. And the other one is extremely sharp, like a huge phoenix claw, clasping the other side of the ink dragon. The moment Mo Long wants to take off, the claws will tighten even more. Roar. Mo Long roared in pain. I tried desperately to break free, but my flesh and blood was pulled out. Yi Ran looked at all this. His eyes darkened slightly. This is the curse of their Yi family. A curse placed on the Yi family from the other two aristocratic families. Every member of the Yi family is carrying a curse on their shoulders on the road to spiritual practice. Destroying one's spiritual practice is like killing one's parents. Based on this alone, the conflict between the Yi family and the other two major families can be said to be a fight to the death. For a moment he recalled his memory again. The head of the Yi family, his father in this world. What he said when he was working at Gaowu Academy in the Magic City. Sometimes spending your life in an ordinary way is a rare happiness. This sentence seemed to comfort Yi Ran, who had already solidified his silver. But at this moment, he had a new understanding of this sentence. Maybe at first, my cheap father may really want to keep himself out of the turmoil of this three-party struggle. Live your life in peace. That's why I sent myself to Gaowu Academy in this magical city to be an ordinary teacher. He also often warned himself not to use the name of the Yi family to cause trouble. All this may be done for protection rather than disgust. However, he still chose to take a path that was against his wishes. Yi Ran looked at the two extremely vicious hook chains on his Mo Long indifferently. If it is an ordinary member of the Yi family, I might drag on these two curses. Go forward with a heavy load. Although progress is difficult, it is still possible after all. But, at this moment, Yi Ran is unwilling. Yi Ran's eyes flashed fiercely. The energy all over my body began to surge. Innate Tao body, open. As Yi Ran's thoughts moved, the ink dragon in Vipassana looked up to the sky and roared, and the entire ink dragon began to emit an ink-colored light. The scales on his body became shiny. The two hook chains formed by the curse were washed away by the innate Tao body. There are beginning to be signs of breaking free. Buzz. It seems that he sensed that the chains were about to be broken off. Instantly, the lines on the chain glowed with light. A python and a sparrow appeared directly. They all have cold eyes. Staring at Mo Long, who wanted to take off. Chirp. As a sharp phoenix cry sounded, the transformed vermilion bird and tan snake attacked directly towards Mo Long. I want to pull this soaring ink dragon into the abyss again. Yi Ran saw this. He snorted coldly. The ink dragon also flew with Yi Ran's thoughts. In a limited space, it was extremely easy to dodge attacks from both sides. Hook and claw are among the three parties fighting. Getting looser and looser. It seems as if it will fall at any time. Buzz. As if he felt that the hook was about to loosen. The two cursed and transformed chains seemed to have spirituality. Disappear directly. All the energy on the cursed chain was directly integrated into the bird and the python. Chirp. The phoenix chirps. The figures of the transformed Suzaku and Tang snake increased several times. One is full of flames, the other is as gloomy as the sea. The light that shines in the eyes. It seemed that he would not give up until he completely devoured Yi Ran, the ink dragon. Whoosh. Sound. The huge red bird is burning with endless flames like a shooting star. Dragging a long tail flame. Stabbed towards Mo Long's head. And Yi Ran just controlled Mo Long to avoid it. But suddenly I felt my body stagnant. Looking down, I don't know when I found out. The vicious snake had already tightly wrapped around Mo Long's lower body. One control, one headshot. An absolute surefire situation. Once the trip is made, these two curses will completely swallow up Yi Ran's entire cultivation. Yi Ran will also be completely reduced to a useless person. In more severe cases, the world of consciousness will directly collapse and turn into dementia. Yi Ran looked at Suzaku running towards him, shaking his head slightly. No wonder ordinary Yi family members would choose to carry forward the burden instead of completely breaking the curse. The risk is really high. But if it only goes to this extent, it's not enough to see. Yi Ran looked at the approaching Suzaku. Calm and calm. The rhythm of the innate Taoist body has spread to the extreme. The body surface of the snake beneath the ink dragon made a melting sound of chi-chi. The snake roared in pain, but still wrapped around Malong and wouldn't let go. Beast. Yi Ran whispered. He tapped his fingers lightly and planned to continue to increase the intensity. Suddenly, a dazzling light appeared in front of Yi Ran. In the light and shadow, a majestic golden dragon hovers. This is the soul of the five-clawed golden dragon emperor. Yi Ran was a little surprised. The reward from the system just flew out on its own. Before Yi Ran could react, the golden dragon soul sank directly into Molong's body. In Molong's eyes, a golden light began to glow. Behind Molong, a golden shadow several times the size of the ink dragon flickers in and out. Above the shadow, a pair of dragon eyes slowly opened. For the sake of me writing one more chapter, I hope you can send more small gifts and give more ratings. Thank you all, thank you. Also, don't say I'm short. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 77, Strangling Curse, Evolution of the Black Dragon. As the dragon's eyes unfold, the shadow gradually solidified. A golden dragon appeared in Yi Ran's inner vision. The golden dragon stretches across the sky with its huge body. Its length stretches for miles, as if it can cover the entire sky. The scales are shining with golden light, each one exuding a dazzling light. The most crucial point is, compared with the Molong, this golden dragon is. There is an extra claw. The true emperor among the dragon clan. Five-clawed golden dragon emperor. The huge head of the five-clawed golden dragon emperor was slightly raised. Roared out a loud dragon roar. Its voice is so vast. Far superior to the previous Molong. The majestic momentum, accompanied by thunder and lightning, shook the heaven and earth. It has an aura that makes all things surrender. Chirp. The cursed Suzaku seemed to feel threatened. The surrounding flames followed a phoenix cry. Burning to the extreme, the offensive momentum intensified a bit more. The flames all over the sky converge on the phoenix's beak. Stab straight into the trapped ink dragon head. It seems that it sensed the attack of Suzaku. The five-clawed golden dragon emperor behind Molong lowered his head and looked at the flames that were shooting towards him. Vaguely, a trace of disdain flashed in his huge eyes. Roar. Faced with Suzaku's attack, the five-clawed golden dragon emperor didn't even make any unnecessary physical movements. He just raised his dragon claw at the moment Suzaku attacked. The movements of the five-clawed golden dragon emperor seem slow, but there is an illusion that it is inevitable. In an instant, the golden claws directly collided with the roaring flames. Ding, 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 ding. The red bird's transformed flame uses its own phoenix beak. Crazy impact on the golden giant claw. The collision between the two actually made a sonorous sound like the collision of gold and stone. But no matter how roused Suzaku charges and attacks, even this giant golden claw can't be penetrated at all. The sky is full of flames. In front of the giant golden claws, I couldn't make any further progress. As the five-clawed golden dragon emperor's dragon claws exerted force. Chirp. A shrill phoenix cry sounded. The previously arrogant Suzaku was caught by the five-clawed golden dragon emperor like a chicken at this moment. Without the source of energy, the flames that filled the sky instantly dissipated into nothingness. Roar. Following the five-clawed golden dragon emperor's low roar, the golden light on the dragon's claws flashes. The Suzaku nestled in his hand didn't have time to make another move. It was directly crushed into little energy fragments by that huge force. Dissipated between heaven and earth. Curse Suzaku, fall. With the death of Suzaku, the hook chain hooking one side of Molong's body also completely disappeared. Subsequently, the five-clawed golden dragon emperor once again looked at the tan snake wrapped around the body of the ink dragon. Tisk, tisk, tisk. The tan snake wrapped around the body of the ink dragon, accompanied by the sinister blue light, staring at the huge golden dragon head. There seemed to be fear in his eyes. Before Tan Snake could make any move, the claws of the five-clawed golden dragon emperor. With lightning speed, he directly grabbed the snake's 7 inches. The huge force directly tore the soaring snake from Molong's body. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Soaring snake spit out the letter, and its body kept rolling, as if it wanted to break free from the claws of the five-clawed golden dragon emperor. As the snake's body continues to surge, the huge body turned the world upside down. Roar, also accompanied by the five-clawed golden dragon emperor's life of vulgarity. A golden light glowed on the dragon's claws. The strong force directly pinched 7 inches of the snake's body. In an instant, the snake's head drooped, and its entire body became paralyzed and straight. Standing in the sky, slowly, the snake became like the Suzaku before. It turned into bits and pieces of energy fragments and dissipated in the heaven and earth. Curse the snake, fall. With the death of Tang Snake, the hook chain hooking the other side of Mo Long's body also completely disappeared. The 1,000-year curse imposed on the Yi family's bloodline by the 2 great families. In Yi Ran's body, shattered to pieces by the claws of the five-clawed golden dragon emperor soul. Roar. It seems that he feels that the restraints on his body have completely disappeared. Malong let out an excited roar. The dragon head looks up. It seems to be charging towards the horizon again. When Malong is about to soar into the sky, the huge body of the five-clawed golden dragon emperor directly blocked Malong's path. The five-clawed golden dragon king looked down at Yi Ran's ink dragon. The huge dragon eyes twinkled. For a time, Yi Ran had the illusion of seeing emotions in the dragon eyes of the five-clawed golden dragon emperor. It seems like confusion, and he seemed puzzled. Finally, there was a trace of relief. Such a look made Yi Ran feel as if he was looking at a junior he hadn't seen for a long time. Roar. With the low roar of the five-clawed golden dragon emperor, the body of the five-clawed golden dragon emperor began to slowly dissipate. Turned into golden spots all over the sky. These golden light spots seemed to be conscious, floating around Mo Long. Slowly golden light spots merged into every scale of Mo Long. With the baptism of these golden light spots, Yi Ran's ink dragon let out a comfortable dragon roar. After the golden light spots merged into the body, which was as dark as ink, it slowly began to glow with golden light. The most amazing thing is, it turns out that the 4-clawed ink dragon. At this moment, the 5th dragon claw began to slowly grow. In looking inside, Yi Ran closed his eyes silently, feeling the changes in his own energy. He could clearly feel that without the constraints of those 2 curses, my road to platinum is now clear. Not only that, he can feel his Malong Zongong, even his own bloodline. After undergoing the baptism of the 5-clawed golden dragon emperor's soul, there has been a qualitative change. The energy that was originally dark green has turned into gold at this moment. And compared with before, the energy level is. It's several levels higher. The power in the meridians. If it was a small river flowing before, now it is as turbulent as the sea. The surging power made Yi Ran unable to hold back and wanted to look up to the sky and scream. It seems that he sensed Yi Ran's excitement. The Malong also started to look up to the sky and let out a dragon roar as he rushed towards the sky. This time the speed is much faster than before. It seems that I will break through this inner world in the next second. Soaring between heaven and earth. All these changes lie in Yi Ran's inner world. It seems like a lot has happened, but in fact, to the outside world, it only happened in a moment. At this moment, looking at Yi Ran's soaring aura, Huang Dongdong's eyes were full of shock and confusion. Just as he was about to get up and show some concern for his newly recognized master. But Lan Moyan stretched out her hand to block it. Junior brother, what are you doing? Huang Dongdong just wanted to avoid Lan Moyan's arm. But he was frightened by a sharp sword intent, and trembled. Even the soul is trembling. Don't come forward. Lan Moyan's words were concise, but with an aura that could not be rejected. At this time, staring at Yi Ran, his eyes flickered. Chapter 78 Strange Phenomenon of Heaven and Earth. The Dragon King descends, and all dragons bow down. Under the gazes of Lan Moyan and Huang Dongdong, Yi Ran's whole body was filled with qi. Suspended in the air extremely slowly, Malong Zongong transformed into another form, flying around Yi Ran's body. After seeing this scene, Lan Moyan narrowed her eyes slightly. Malong Zongong, it's a little different, weird. As an extraordinary person of the massacre level, he could feel the energy of this ink dragon growing at an alarming rate. Not only that, there are also different changes in momentum. The previous Malong gave people the feeling of a hidden dragon hidden in the abyss. Now this Malong has great momentum, looking at the 8 wastelands. It even made Lan Moyan feel like he didn't look like Malong at all. As time goes by, the hovering ink dragon began to glow with golden light. Roar. With a dragon roar, the whole Malong seemed to have broken through some kind of shackles. Transformation starts from scratch. The dragon's head, which was originally as black as jade, now has golden whiskers. As the golden color continues to spread, from the dragon head to the dragon body, then to the dragon claws, and finally to the dragon tail. Moment. Yi Ran was surrounded by golden light. Against the backdrop of golden light, Yi Ran seemed to be an emperor from ancient times. It's so majestic that you can't look directly at it. This is, feeling the golden energy escaping from Yi Ran's body. There was a hint of surprise in Lan Moyan's eyes. This kind of breath, ancient and vicissitudes of life, timeless and timeless. Unexpectedly, the indestructible sword that was pulling him was swaying a little. At this moment, Huang Dongdong, who also felt Yi Ran's escaping breath. The whole person has difficulty breathing. There was a tremor coming from his soul that made him want to kneel down and surrender. The aura surrounding Yi Ran's body is still soaring. Until the critical point, the golden dragon raised its head and roared. Directly integrated into Yi Ran's body. The golden light transformed into the emperor's crown and robe. Added to Yi Ran's body. The imperial robe woven with golden light. It contains the power of heaven and earth, shines brightly, and gathers the essence of the stars. In an instant, the space around Yi Ran began to change. Roar. Dragon roars rise and fall one after another, and thunder rolls across the 9 heavens. In the void, countless dragon phantoms flickered and appeared. A vision of heaven and earth. After seeing this scene, Huang Dongdong, who was resisting with difficulty, said. My jaw dropped in shock. As the world around Yi Ran changes, the aura from eternity became a little stronger. This was like the last straw that broke the camel's back, completely crushing Huang Dongdong's hard-working support. The whole person fell into a coma. Lan Moyan glanced slightly at Huang Dongdong, who fell to the ground. After confirming that there is no life-threatening danger, he also focused all his attention on Yi Ran. The phenomenon of heaven and earth is the way to the 3rd level. Lan Moyan murmured to himself. When is it so easy to reach the 3rd level? Lan Moyan looked at Yi Ran. I just don't know which level of the upper 3rd level Yi Ran can reach. But don't let others disturb you at such an important stage. Lan Moyan waved her hand gently. A buzz sound. The entire space around the forging room. It seemed as if it had been cut by a sharp blade. Self-contained, completely disconnected from the outside world. Yi Ran, who was in the midst of the vision, was completely unaware of Lan Moyan's manipulations. Yi Ran, who was wearing a golden dragon robe, majestic and domineering, looking down on all living beings. As the golden imperial robe becomes more and more solid, the giant dragons that were flying in the void all revealed their true bodies one by one. Silver dragon, 9 nether poison dragon, fire dragon, earth dragon, abyss black dragon. Lan Moyan counted the figures of these giant dragons in detail. The more I look at it, the more surprised I become. The giant dragons surrounding Yi Ran, without exception, all of them are true dragons above S level, and there is no low-level hybrid dragon. These real dragons roared softly. All dragons are paying attention to Yi Ran, who is standing at the core of the space. Suddenly, Yi Ran's eyes opened. His eyes were filled with golden light. This moment, the dragon robe and crown on Yi Ran's body completely condensed into substance. A huge shadow appeared behind Yi Ran. This is the Malong that took off in Yi Ran's inner meditation before. It's not so much the shadow of the ink dragon. Looking at it now, I might as well call it a golden dragon. That shadow, all golden, the huge body stretches across the sky. Roar. A loud dragon roar sounded behind Yi Ran. A breath from eternity dominates the world. Magnificent and atmospheric. The aura that covers the sky cuts across the past and present, making the avenues vibrate. All the giant dragons in the void lowered their proud heads. He knelt down. Worship Yi Ran. This moment, Yi Ran stood in the center of the vision. Like an emperor, accept the kneeling worship of all true dragons. Lan Moyan looked at these strange phenomena of heaven and earth. I was speechless for a long time. The Dragon King comes to the world, and all the dragons bow their heads. Such visions of heaven and earth. It does not belong to any of the previously known visions of heaven and earth. But when you stand at the top of the sword sect with yourself and step out on your own path. The vision of the heaven and earth where thousands of swords roared in unison, slashing through the eternal night. In comparison, it's not much better. That is to say, the path Yi Ran took was the 2nd grade. It is the second-grade path that can only be walked by the most powerful people in the world. Lan Moyan stared at Yi Ran, stunned. The Tao of the third level can cause strange phenomena in heaven and earth. But there are also differences between the three grades. The gap between each of the above three grades is huge. Even far more than the other 6 grades combined. Can reach the second level of Tao. At least it means that Yi Ran's extraordinary road is now smooth. It also means that Yi Ran has the potential to achieve the extraordinary level of massacre. As for the first grade, it has almost disappeared. Many powerful people even begin to believe that Yipan only exists in the most ideal state. No one can get out of reality at all. Watching a brand new second grade road being born under his nose. This made Lan Moyan, who had always been stoic, a little excited. As time goes by, the visions of heaven and earth slowly dissipated. Yi Ran walked through the air and slowly landed on the ground. He silently felt the breath on his body. Powerful and majestic. It has the power of mountains and rivers that can penetrate the sun and the moon. This is completely different from my previous stage of golden perfection. There is an illusion of a different dimension. Not only that, Yi Ran could still clearly feel the roar of his own blood. Without the shackles of the curse of the python and the bird. Yi Ran's Malong Zon Gong has never been running as smoothly as it is today. Strictly speaking, it can no longer be called Malong Zon Gong. This golden power of the Dragon King. No matter in terms of momentum or quality, it completely crushes the previous power of the Ink Dragon. If we talk about the previous fight against the Korean group, it also requires the assistance of the system and the blessing of the innate Taoist body to catch Han Kyun off guard in order to win. So now if Yi Ran meets Han Kyun again, Yi Ran felt that it was almost as difficult as crushing an ant. The path of the second grade, the path of the most powerful. It really lives up to its reputation. However, is this enough? Are you really satisfied with this second grade way? Yi Ran closed his eyes silently. There seems to be some struggle. After a while, Yi Ran opened his eyes again, his eyes shining with determination and determination. Chapter 79 Lan Moyan is exposed, slaughtering a national level extraordinary. Moment. The breath on Yi Ran's body was stirring. Roar. Accompanied by a dragon roar. The golden dragon king's shadow emerged. As Yi Ran's thoughts moved, the Dragon King's shadow seemed to be reluctant to circle around Yi Ran. It went out directly and turned into a golden rain, dissipating between the sky and the earth. The whole space started to roar with thousands of dragons. The voice whimpers, like pain, like mourning. And Yi Ran's aura began to plummet. The realm also slowly fell from the top of platinum. The second grade way. The Dragon King comes to the world, and the heaven and earth vision of dragons bowing their heads. It was crushed by Yi Ran himself. After seeing this scene, Lan Moyan was a little stunned. What happened? The advancement failed. Lan Moyan squinted her eyes. No, it's not that the advancement failed. It was me who took the initiative to break up this vision of heaven and earth and gave up platinum. Why? Yi Ran, what exactly does he want to do? This scene, even Lan Moyan, who had a heart as strong as a magic weapon, saw her blood pressure soar. What a waste of natural resources, what a waste of natural resources. Yi Ran at this time, silently feeling his own situation. Since I have already entered the realm of platinum. Therefore, my own aura is much stronger than that of golden perfection. It's not much different from an ordinary platinum level powerhouse. The curse on his bloodline has completely dissipated. Not only that, the nourishment of the 5-clawed golden dragon emperor is still there. The power running inside the body is still the golden power of the Dragon King. The quality of the power of the Ink Dragon is much stronger than that of his previous one. Overall, the strength has been greatly improved. Yi Ran recalled the previous vision of heaven and earth where thousands of dragons worshipped. Is it a pity? It's a pity indeed. It's just that the second grade vision of heaven and earth. For myself, not enough. Yi Ran has a groove in his chest and his eyes are deep and far-sighted. Since I don't plan to make salted fish anymore, then you have to walk the path of the strongest. To do, I want to be the only one among hundreds of millions of people. The Dragon King who came into the world is not called Huang. The emperor who swept across the wilderness and used the souls of his enemies to tell the world. He is the real emperor. Just when Yi Ranshu was determined. Suddenly I felt a fierce murderous aura coming from behind me. Why? Lan Moyan's cold voice came from behind Yi Ran. Yi Ran turned around and glanced at Lan Moyan. The whole person was completely stunned. At this moment, Lan Moyan's blind box has been opened by the system. Lan Moyan, male, 20 years old. Nation killing extraordinary person. Inherited sect. Sword God sect. Current skill. 9 Heaven Star Sword Technique. Advantages. Perfect Sword Heart, Natural Sword Embryo, Top Kendo Understanding, Top Destructive Power, Top Speed, Top Strength, Absolute Intuition. Disadvantages. Insufficient level, unable to view. Advice. Don't mess with it. Yi Ran rubbed his eyes. 2. Tuogo level extraordinary. Then Yi Ran repeatedly turned the system on again, and off again. After countless times, I finally had to face this fact. Yi Ran looked at Lan Moyan, but his mind still hadn't turned around. This sudden critical attack, Yi Ran's worldview began to waver. Yi Ran looked at Lan Moyan with a complicated expression. Before you ask me why, I really want to ask you why. A majestic and extraordinary figure who slaughters a nation. Don't you want to become famous and come to be a student in your salty fish class? And he also became Huang Dongdong's younger brother. I always thought that Li Wancheng's behavior was already the underpinnings of extraordinary dignity. Who would have thought that, big brother, you don't even need underwear anymore? Brother, what are you planning? This crazy world. Dian, all Dian is better. Of course, as an adult who takes full responsibility for the safety of his or her own actions. I still very much follow the advice of, don't mess with, given by the system. Although there are countless grass and mud horses galloping in my heart. Yi Ran's face was calm. There is no reason, this way is not suitable for me. One sentence immediately choked Lan Moyan. The second grade way is not suitable for you. Do you know that hundreds of millions of golden boys can't get out of this second grade path even if they beg their grandpa and sue their grandma? Do you know that in a certain big province, as long as you walk out of the second level way, you can be the first to worship ancestors? Does the family tree start from you? Are you still not satisfied with the second grade way? Do you still want to walk out on that first level road and reach heaven? Lan Moyan shook her head and looked at Yi Ran with some confusion. But he didn't ask any more questions. Although Yi Ran voluntarily gave up this time. But since I was able to walk out of the second level this time. This proves Yi Ran's potential. The next time he advances to platinum, Yi Ran's probability of being able to reach the second level is much higher than others. Although he was a little angry at Yi Ran's wasteful behavior. But this does not affect Lan Moyan's desire to recruit Yi Ran. Lan Moyan, who had regained her mood, also realized that her behavior just now was a little off track. Just when he was thinking about how to fool him, Yi Ran spoke. Well, classmate Lan, I think. So keen, have you discovered it yet? Lan Moyan frowned slightly. Before truly gaining Yi Ran's trust. Now is not a good time for a showdown. It seems that this is the only way to use it. Lan Moyan's eyes tightened, suddenly interrupted Yi Ran's speech. A little dizzy. Moment. Lan Moyan held her forehead with one hand. The whole person began to stagger and became unsteady. There was a clang sound. Lan Moyan fell directly next to Huang Dongdong. The sudden behavior and poor acting skills made Yi Ran couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. This is the philosophy of life that Lan Moyan realized from the way of swordsmanship. When you encounter something that you can't explain at all, the best way is not to explain. There is nothing. It's more straightforward than falling to the ground. Cut the mess with a sharp knife. Always do only the most effective actions. Simple and crude, reasonable and efficient. As for image dignity. Sorry, there are only targets and swords in Lan Moyan's dictionary. Facing Lan Moyan, who had fallen to the ground unconscious. Yi Ran had thousands of words gathering in his mouth, but he just couldn't say them out. What can I do? Faced with such a supreme being who slaughters a nation. I can't beat him, I can't scold him, but I dare not scold him. I want to give him a few words to persuade him to leave. As a result, the other party refused to communicate with you and lay on the ground pretending to be dead. Yi Ran felt so tired at this time. The magical days when I ran the class well and took care of the students easily. Now I not only have to act with an extraordinary assistant. I also have to accompany a cosplay teacher and student of a country-killing boss. Do you extraordinary beings really have nothing to do? Just catch yourself and cause trouble. Yi Ran felt a little sad and angry. However, the great Marxist philosophy and the fundamental law of materialist dialectics once said, contradiction is the unity of opposites. Everything has its good side and its bad side. At least, with these two living dads in my class, my students no longer have to be afraid of the little tricks of the Zhu family's forces. Yi Ran comforted himself. Ouch. Maybe he was shocked when Lan Moyan fell to the ground. Huang Dongdong, who was still in a coma, rubbed his painful forehead and sat up. His whole expression was as if he had experienced a hangover. Huang Dongdong looked at Lan Moyan, who was lying on the ground and fainted next to him. Smiled a little proudly. Pretending to be an adult, he emphasized and shook his head. Hey, I'm still too young. Without the 2 or 3 of your senior brother, if you insist on following me, you'll be unlucky. Hiss. Weird, why is it so cold all of a sudden? Can I still catch a cold? Huang Dongdong shivered violently as soon as he finished speaking, and his heart palpitated for no reason. Seeing this scene, Yi Ran couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth slightly. The style of the fire sect members is truly worthy of its reputation. Chapter 80 You Know Nothing, Wang Dakan. In order to prevent Huang Dongdong from making any more outrageous remarks, Yi Ran asked directly, Dongdong, are you awake? Huang Dongdong looked up and saw Yi Ran, and said excitedly, Master, have you broken through to platinum? I just saw a vision of heaven and earth. Yi Ran shook his head and did not explain too much. Not yet, it should be about the same as you now. Huang Dongdong heard Yi Ran's answer. He muttered, That's not right, I clearly saw visions and it turned into an illusion. However, Huang Dongdong's doubts were fleeting. Since my master said so, this must be the case. Huang Dongdong is eccentric, imitated Yi Ran's posture and said in Yi Ran's tone. Normally, if the road to the 3rd level can be taken so easily, all the heroes in the world will die. Yi Ran smiled and looked at Huang Dongdong, who was imitating his own words. It seemed that Huang Dongdong wanted to liven up the atmosphere and comfort himself. Okay, don't be shy, everything is done, pack up and leave. Okay, master. Seeing that Yi Ran was not depressed, Huang Dongdong also responded extremely obediently. Later, Lan Moyan, who was pretending to be faint with one hand raised, followed Yi Ran and left the forging room. Dongdong, if you go back, you may have to adapt. Ah, why master? Didn't you notice that your hair and eyebrows were all burned away? Omega D Omega. ... After a while, the 3 of them have arrived at the corridor of the teaching building. Dongdong, you carry him to the classroom, I won't go there. Yi Ran said to Huang Dongdong at the entrance of the corridor. Huang Dongdong nodded moodily. Be happy. If the old ones don't go away and the new ones don't come in, your eyebrows and hair will grow back in 2 days. Yi Ran looked at Huang Dongdong with a smile. He even touched Huang Dongdong's smooth head. It feels good. Huang Dongdong looked at Yi Ran helplessly. Master, where are you going? I'm going to ask for mental damages. Yi Ran waved his hand and left the 2 of them. Judging from the direction of departure, it seemed that he was going straight to the principal's office. And just after Yi Ran left, Lan Moyan slowly opened her eyes. Are you awake? Huang Dongdong looked at Lan Moyan. Lan Moyan looked at Yi Ran's leaving back and nodded. You woke up at the right time. I woke up right after teacher Yi left. Huang Dongdong shook his head, seeming a little uncomfortable with the feeling of being without hair. Senior brother told you in advance not to follow. Look at you, you have to suffer. If you don't listen to the old man's words, you will suffer the consequences. Huang Dongdong, an old and arrogant man, warned his so-called junior brother. Instead, Lan Moyan smiled and touched Huang Dongdong's head. It feels really good. After watching Huang Dongdong's process of creating the Samadhi True Fire Golden Body, Lan Moyan also listed Huang Dongdong as a key target of attention. He was in a good mood at this time. After all, who would have thought that this trip would lead to double happiness? Huang Dongdong avoided Lan Moyan angrily. Does anyone treat a senior brother like this? No matter how big or small. Huang Dongdong symbolically wiped his bare forehead and said to Lan Moyan. Junior brother, if we can't do it today, let's not go to class. Just skipping class, how much can you do in one afternoon? Huang Dongdong hesitated and persuaded Lan Moyan. In fact, it is because he has not done a good job in psychological construction and shows himself as a bald man. Huang Dongdong was between embarrassment and escape, ready to choose escape. Lan Moyan looked at Huang Dongdong. He shook his head. No. What's wrong? There are a lot of students skipping classes. How can we be called college students if we don't skip classes? Huang Dongdong said anxiously. Lan Moyan looked at Huang Dongdong. Teacher Yi, do you want you to skip class? Lan Moyan's words, like his person, were always concise and to the point. One sentence goes straight to Huang Dongdong's destiny. Huang Dongdong, who originally wanted to escape, was like a defeated rooster. Despondently, she followed Lan Moyan towards the classroom. Ha 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 ha, Dongdong, your look is so unique. The development of things was exactly as Huang Dongdong expected. Huang Dongdong's bald look, as soon as he entered the class, he became the hot spot of the whole class. Due to the loss of hair and eyebrows. In addition, I am relatively young. Huang Dongdong looks like a big-headed doll without hair, looking extremely festive. However, everyone was relatively unfamiliar with Huang Dongdong, so everyone could only chuckle. But Wang Dakan is different. The first time I came in from Huang Dongdong, Wang Dakan's raised corners of his mouth never came down. I have been laughing for half an hour. Wang Dongdong stared at Wang Dakan, who was laughing loudly. Then his mind turned around and he said to Wang Dakan. What do you know, silly guy? This is what Teacher Yi taught me when he opened a small stove for me. After hearing these words, Wang Dakan's smile faded a lot. Yi Ran's guidance. The weight in Wang Dakan's heart is too heavy. You said this was taught to you by Teacher Yi. Huang Dongdong shook his head and said. Teacher Yi said that hair is an extension of the body, which consumes the energy of the heart. Only after completely removing the hair and sealing one's pores can one truly feel the power of the heart. From then on, the cultivation level will advance by leaps and bounds. Quote. What Huang Dongdong said is clear and logical. Wang Dakan was stunned for a while. But at this time, Wang Dakan was wiser. He looked at Huang Dongdong with some doubts. Dongdong, are you lying to me? Huang Dongdong was a kid, and looked at Wang Dakan with a proud look on his face. Why did I lie to you? If you don't believe it, let's try it and you will know. As he spoke, Huang Dongdong stretched out his arm and looked at Wang Dakan provocatively. Come, just come, I'm afraid of you. Wang Dakan stretched out his hand doubtfully and held Huang Dongdong's little hand. The moment he touched Wang Dakan's palm, Huang Dongdong exerted force on his palm instantly. Wang Dakan's palms were directly pinched and twisted. Of course, Wang Dakan was not a vegetarian, he directly concentrated his huge power on his palms. The deformed palm returned to normal again. In an instant, the forces of the two parties reached a balance. Dongdong, you are a lot stronger, but this is not enough. Wang Dakan praised Huang Dongdong's improvement in strength. But it's still within his psychological tolerance. Listening to Wang Dakan's speech, the corners of Huang Dongdong's mouth raised slightly. Really, then be careful. In an instant, Huang Dongdong's little hand glowed with golden red light from the inside out. The strength seems to be much stronger. Soaring power. He squeezed Wang Dakan's palm out of shape again. Tisk, tisk. Huang Dongdong was not only powerful, but the unique high temperature on his palms made Wang Dakan's palms make a burning sound. The explosive power and extreme high temperature caught Wang Dakan off guard. I could only retract my palm in pain. Wang Dakan looked at his palm in shock. At this time, the sides of my palms were already turning black, and they were recovering extremely slowly. He has clearly used the power of Taotie to partially strengthen his palms. Although somewhat unprepared, however, with Taotie's top-notch defense capabilities and top-notch strength, it was more than enough to deal with Huang Dongdong before. For a moment, Wang Dakan's eyes changed when he looked at Huang Dongdong. Logically speaking, Huang Dongdong definitely does not have such strength. Could it be said that this act of shaving really came from Teacher Yi's instructions? At this moment, Wang Dakan's heart was completely shaken. The smile on his face also disappeared. Silly brother, do you believe at this time? Huang Dongdong raised his hand and waved it in front of Wang Dakan, looking at Wang Dakan's complacency. Huh, let you laugh at me, you silly guy. Wang Dakan looked at Huang Dongdong deeply. After a moment, he turned around and left the classroom without saying a word. It's windy when I walk, and I even feel a little rushed. Dakan, what are you going to do? Huang Dongdong asked. Barber shop. Thank you for watching. Continue exploring the fascinating world of Chinese novels with us. Hit that subscribe button on Chinese Novel Audiobook to stay updated with our latest stories, and never miss out on a great listen.